Bye, babe. Love you.
We'll just start now. We don't have to
Okay,
just
cool.
wait, just because you might say something cool about the law. What were you saying about the law?
These bookcases are here as dividers because they're full of fabric.
Oh my gosh.
Right. It is just fabric. The rest of the room has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bags of clothes for people.
Gosh.
But I can't get out to fit anyone.
Oh, wow. When can you get out to fit them?
I'm not. Well, it would have been tomorrow, so I prepped a whole lot of stuff. You know, I mean, it's money sitting there that I can't do anything about. Is the issue, you know? And it took a while for work to start coming in.
Yeah.
And then it starts to come in. There's weddings, there's birthday parties, and you know, I'll get girls. It's their 35th birthday party. They're hiring the Crown for $100,000. They want to have a real leopard there.
Oh my God, a real leopard?
Yeah, and I just look at these people and I go, I have known people who have had so much of everything, but they've never been this distorted in their whole lives.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know what I mean?
I completely know what you, and I'll take this out. Like, oh my God, like kids' birthday parties. I'm like, you're just messing this kid up. It's just out of control.
The competitiveness.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's one of those things. Like, now, fortunately, she pushed it back to July, but the picture I got was I can't even Kendall Jenner, who's what, 6'2" or something, 6'2", in this gold body suit that comes to just below the crotch, and then with all net. That she goes, I want something like that for my birthday party. And I'm going, and you're 5'5". Weight's okay. You know what I mean? Because I'm really hard. I was at somebody's house the other day, and because I can't do it when I work part-time in the shop. It's my friend's shop, and I go and I work part-time, you know. Right. And they'll say, what do you think? I go, I'm sorry, you're wearing it. It's not my responsibility to have an opinion, you know. And because what happens, if I use my sense, which I would with a private client, and say, no, you have to wear it there. Yeah. If I say that to them, they go home, pardon me, and their best friend will say, oh my God, I wouldn't have done it that length. Then they come back, we can't change it. They blame us, and we're expected to buy them a new dress.
Yeah, I know.
So I just go, no, I'm really sorry. But somebody else will come in, and there's some women I know really, really well, and they'll put it on, and I go, what is it that you want us to do with this? Because at the moment, you just look like a block in it. She just lost it and started laughing. She said, it is done. I look like a square. It's so wrong. I said, see, it's cool. And then they'll let me do what I do. Yeah. But in a lot of situations, it's called zip it. Yeah. No opinion. You know, so I go from being total control freak, adrenaline junkie, to now, how can I help you? What would you like to do today? And then stand there for 15 minutes because they can't decide what length their jeans should be. Yeah. And I just,
it's funny. I have a friend that stole the book, the Getting It On book, that loves you. And she managed Fred Siegel, you know, Fred Siegel on Melrose.
God, I used to live in there.
Yeah. She's one of the managers, and she loves you and what you're about. And and she does, she takes pictures of people. She doesn't give opinions. She just takes pictures. You know what I mean? Well, let me take a picture, show it from every side, and you can decide. But that's her way of like kind of showing up.
Yeah. But that's hysterical, because when Fred Siegel first started on Melrose, mid-70s, early 70s, and it was sort of like, why have you put this shop in? Because Melrose didn't have anything on it. There was just Fred Siegel. And Ron, the guy who was sort of a business owner.
Ron Robinson, that's who was her boss. You know Ron Robinson?
Yeah. You know, so I mean, these people be around forever, but it was the shop. I would just take Loverboy, let them loose.
Oh my gosh.
Sunshine Band, let them loose. Because the shop had shoes, it had shirts, it had everything. And I would just let them go. And if by some poor chance a girl or somebody, a girl who just started working there, and I would come in and she'd come up and say, can I help you? And one of the other staff around, I'm going, I tell you right now, she knows the stock better than you do. Leave her alone.
Yeah, that's part of the art, is knowing who wants to be helped and who doesn't want to be helped. That was her job as a manager. Yeah.
And the same when Barney's opened. Barney's was one of the first, because that's that concept of having studio shopping or wardrobe departments, you know, that you could go in and shop and take clothes out.
Yeah.
That didn't exist. And to a degree, I sort of started it, but I would walk out of Barney's and these places, $8,000 worth of clothes in, say, 1979, not paid for it, nothing.
Wow.
And I'd go to Lindsay Buckingham's house. He'd probably buy $6,000 of it. You know,
that makes sense. Probably invented, because she would be like, I'm doing a poll for Christina Aguilera. She go, I got to do a poll for Christina. And that's pulling, you know, clothes and send it over. She picks what she wants and sends it back. It's a poll.
Exactly,
I guess that's what that was.
Because, and that was the thing that when I started clothing, I mean, like say for Olivia, like you were saying, when she started out, there were no sort of formal or dressy clothes for Vegas for a girl her age who looked like her.
Yeah.
They're all matrons. You know, if you're going to a ball at the town hall, you know, so for me, it was lucky that you couldn't get those clothes in case somebody came and designed them, you know, specifically for you. And Bob Mackie, you know, who was a champion for me in a certain way, but Dolly Parton said something funny one day. We had met years before, and there are management companies, and like a company called Gallon Murray Addis. They at one stage managed the Osmonds, the Pointer Sisters. They had Olivia, or they probably had 10 artists, because that's how it used to be.
Right.
So I might come in working, well, they'd just give me every other artist. And Sandy Gallon, whom you've probably heard of, was very, very good friends with Dolly.
Okay.
So when Dolly, she lost all her weight, you know, she used to be really voluptuous and big, and then lost all of her weight, you know, and her waist was smaller than my thigh, you know, I mean,
I remember that.
Tiny, you know. And so I got called to go to her house to meet with her, and we're chatting away, and she said, you know, Sandy said you were the best one for me, and going on all that. And then she said there's only 3 things I can't change. You can do anything you like with me, but these 3 things have to stay: my hair, my nails, and the lifts in my shoes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
She's very petite.
Yeah.
You know? And so we had a lot of fun working together. And to this day, she is the first. She is the only client that paid me before I started the job.
Wow. She seems like a cool person.
Oh, she really, I don't want you out of pocket, you know, on any level. And she said, I'm calling my accountants now. This is the address. You go down, you tell them how much you want.
Yeah.
You know, and just a quickie on Dolly. I took her, she'd lost all the weight. So I thought, I'm going to take her to Azadine Alaya. And I don't know if you're familiar with the French designer. He started doing a lot of knitted stuff that were very fit and everything. And so we took her down, and I'd already walked. This is like Julia Roberts' film, Pretty
Woman. Yeah.
You know how she goes into the shops and they just look at her?
Yeah.
Don't talk to her?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I had that done to me.
Wow.
Like Bajan, who became the big menswear shop, I went to go down there, and I was looking for shirts for Mick Fleetwood, and he was in. They came to. They said, "Oh, I'm awfully sorry, you'd have to make an appointment." And I said, "Gee, Mick Jagger and Mick Fleetwood and all of these, they're going to be so disappointed." Thanks, and walked away. And they're going, you know. But the funny part was, the second time I went to Dolly's house, she goes, "I'm really upset with you." And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "We've met before." I said, "I know." And she said, "Well, why didn't you say something?" And I said, "Because I don't walk into the house and say to my client, oh, by the way, we're really good buds. We got so drunk the other night."
Yeah.
I said, "I know exactly where we met." I said, "We met on the steps of the Savoy Hotel in London. I was with Olivia and Roger Davies. I think Roger was talking to you. Brian Adams came out down the stairs, and we all stood there talking."
Wow.
And she goes, "Well, why did?" I said, "Because that was just a moment in time that I didn't know, you know." But, and it's funny, I'm just going to show you this very briefly. I can put it up. This is one of my diaries. Now, can you see that?
I can. I can't read it, but I can see it.
Yeah.
Nice handwriting, by the way.
Yeah. Every page.
Oh my God.
That's my life. Now, while I'm doing this, I went through to give you an idea. of something. Now, this is just really a lot of this because it's to do with Olivia. Leave for London to start the physical promotional
Oh my
tour.
God. And that's why I had to say, I was looking at the physical video and that influenced so much. Where I was in New Jersey, it changed how women dressed. It changed the whole aerobics movement, jazzercise. That video changed everything.
Well, the thing was, you couldn't buy leotards in colors.
Right.
In that day. This is when is physical? 79. God, I don't know. Oh, I'm looking at the book. 1981. So we've already done the video, and so it didn't exist. And I said something funny and something last night. When we went to do it, I mean, I found the burgundy tights, which is what they were.
Yeah.
Then I found a top, and then I took her white T-shirt and I took it down and I tied it between her legs, so it looked like a leotard.
Oh my gosh.
And then I cut the neck off. The crew neck, the banding that was on the neck became her headband.
Oh my God.
And this is all happening on the set. I had no idea. Then we found the turquoise T-shirt. So I cut all that up. And everybody wants to think that Flashdance was the first time people cut up T-shirts. And I go, hang on a second. I cut the necks out, all of this sort of stuff. And Olivia quoted saying, well, Fleur was so good with a pair of scissors and ripping things because she'd been doing it for rock stars for years.
Oh my gosh.
Cutting down the T-shirts and cutting the sleeves out, So that is how that came about. And I've got pictures of on the set. I'm still working on it, doing stuff.
As I was going to say, that video, you have Shout at the Devil, looks to kill, it's iconic, but physical is just as iconic of a video. Changed everything.
Well, I think what was interesting, Jane Fonda was probably the quickest to jump on. She had all her exercise videos, and she didn't do yoga videos, did she? She only did exercise.
The Jane Fonda workout,
Yeah. And so all of it started, well, where do you get these clothes? Because leotards and things before had only really been for ballet wear. So generally they're white or they're black. Yeah. They're not colors. We're like today, you look at sportswear, it's just ridiculous, the level of which, and everybody lives in it. Yeah. And just a quick story there. I was in the shop one morning and the sun's coming through and a woman's walking past with her baby in the pram. And I'm walking out to put the sign out and I can see straight through her exercise pants, straight through them, right?
Yeah.
And she's got a tattoo on her bottom.
Oh my God.
So I walk up and I say, do you realize I can see the tattoo on your bottom? Her face was, I said, don't you realize you can see straight through those things? They're not meant to be worn outside.
Oh my gosh. Was she thankful?
Oh, she wanted to smack me in the head.
Oh, okay.
But it was one, and I'm thinking, these women, most of you don't have the body to be seen in this. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Because yes, I do. Yeah.
You can see straight through them. They're that sort of very fine, sort of elasticated thing. And when you're out and the sun hits it, it's like it's a filter to the sun.
Oh my God.
Still see through it, So, I have my own feelings about all of that sort of stuff and I won't get in there because everyone goes, geez, she's a bitch. No. I go, you're right, babe. You're right. But anyway, so back to Olivia. So I've got here September the 12th of 1981. We arrive in London, get into the hotel, boom, boom, boom. And the people names in here, Roger Davies, who managed Olivia, who resurrected Tina Turner's career, Joe Cocker, he manages Pink.
Wow.
He started out managing Sherbet, Australian band.
Okay, I think I know that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of how he started out. And it's interesting because I go through things and then I'll come up and say, we go back to somewhere and there's Danny Brampton. And Danny used to be one of the big promo heads for one of the record companies. Jeffrey Baxter, Neil Lofgren. This is just people we banged into in the street, like what you're doing. And so then we go to the Hard Rock Cafe, boom, boom, boom. But every day, I'm sick all day. I'm nauseous. I have no idea what's wrong with me. But anyway, then we do the video. We leave for the studio. And what days? Because we go Luxembourg, we go Rome, we go Amsterdam, we go Hamburg, we go every day we fly and land in a city. And we do, which is probably lip syncing, you know.
Right, right. Oh, yeah.
And then there's the dancers on it, you know. So, and I mean, we stopped in Milan, we did it there, then we go to Rome and we did it there. And this is in the days that, my God, if you'd had a mobile phone,
Oh my
I mean,
God,
I've
can you
got a lot
imagine?
of photos, but a lot of them are Polaroids. You know,
I love I realized you took the Polaroid, you were taking the Polaroids, right? That was the only way. I remember that.
You know, there was nothing else you could do. And
there was a magic to that, right? I remember realizing that Polaroids, because I took photos of my band and realizing if you got the Polaroids, that was really all you had to see what was going to happen.
Well, the thing is too, when you're in a photo session, and like today, I mean, when you're doing photos back then, you had to sort of get it right. I mean, today you're doing a photo session and it's being shot here, but it's feeding through a computer the whole time. You know exactly what you're getting. Boom, boom, boom. You know, so people would go and take a Polaroid, come back, check the light, do this. Always in photo sessions, the point of getting great shots, there starts to be this affiliation between the photographer and the artist.
Right.
And you can get to a point with the photographer, well, just let the dress slip off your shoulder a little bit more, or just that. And you can see this coming, and the person is nervous, but they're starting to allow the photographer to tell them what to do. Right. And it keeps going. And then I walk in front of the camera and I'm going, we're stopping right now. Because it's getting to the point, there's going to be a nipple somewhere, and that's a photo someone's going to flog.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
You know, this shit happens all the time. So I would always be collecting the Polaroids, and I would number them.
Okay.
So I didn't leave Polaroids that could be in some way stressful to an artist later on, blackmail. I mean, you have no idea, but things can happen in a photo session. I've seen it in the video with the dancers when the girls come in. Nothing's compared to the videos today because they nearly all look like points. You know, but in those days it was very, you know, white bread 70s, you know, oh, you know, just do this or just do this and this. And there's not much I can do. I'm taking Polaroids, but I will walk up to the director and say, chill. She's not that sort of artist.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, you're not going to be able to use this. You know, I mean, the record company's going to go nuts. You know, that's the thing. So, you know, so I'm just looking at this, and we're in Hamburg, and then I'm just saying, oh, we just all went to dinner with ABBA, and
ABBA, that's insane.
Yeah. So this is 81. So we're going to dinner with ABBA, and there's another part when we're on tour. And I've written about this, I think, you know, it's like with Richard, it's like, I better not say too much because Richard's going to say, but you've already told them that. You know what I mean? But there are just things that sort of happen when you're out and doing things. And Olivia was on tour. We'd gone into Sweden, to Stockholm to do a show. I go downstairs to see if there's any mail. And I'm standing there talking to the guy, and to my left is this guy with a lot of blonde hair who looks really cool, but he's got this really crazy sort of fair old Swedish jumper on, you know. And I look again, it's Robert Plant, you know. And I'm going, why would you have a jumper like that on? What you call a sweater, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And
I thought you meant jumpsuit. I thought you meant like
no, just a yeah. I know what you mean. A jumper, yeah, they're all different. We call it a pinafore, you call it a jumper. It's all the same shit. And I was just sort of like, oh my God, because they were there recording, and I wrote it down somewhere. Oh shoot, what was the name of it? So we're talking 1981. They were doing it was a huge album, and I've gone blank on the name.
Who was recording the album?
Led Zeppelin. They were doing it in Sweden at ABBA's studio.
Well, John Bonham was dead in 80, so maybe they were fixing up Coda. Coda was the one that was post.
Is there one that had a number in it? Oh, shit.
They all have different code names. Led Zeppelin 4, maybe? I don't know.
No, it had a name to it. But anyway, so, you know, and then I went over to the bar to meet the band, and we're all just sitting over there. And all of a sudden there's this deathly silence. And you turn and you become aware that this black figure has walked into the bar. And it's Mr. Page. And this is when he was very much into the black magic.
Yeah.
era, you know.
Oh yeah, the Aleister Crowley. So yeah.
Yeah, and so it's sort of funny because years later, when I did meet him to work with him, I said, we've actually met on a couple of different occasions, you know. And he said, oh, and I said, I remember when you were in Stockholm recording, I saw you in the bar. And he goes, was I rude or anything? I said, no, you were very quiet, very removed. And then another time he was at a party for Swan Song, and I came in to use the bathroom and he was pissing into the tub.
Oh my God.
And he goes, oh, I'm so sorry, because he is really the nicest, most respectful, funniest. He when he gets going, he takes the piss out of everybody.
No pun, or puts it in the bathtub. Yeah. Wow.
You know, and I sort of I said, oh, I'm so sorry for disturbing you, and turned and walked out again, you know. But anyway, so we're on tour doing the physical video, a different town every day, Hamburg, Brennan, you know, it's just going on and on. I'm tweaking the clothes, turquoise top, whatever. And then sometimes laying out clothes, because I had to make sure she had enough clothes, because we did at least 10 different TV shows.
Oh, wow.
She couldn't wear the same outfit on every one, you know, so that she looked completely different, whether, you know, we were in Hamburg or in Brennan or in Milan or Rome, every single one, which is probably why I have so many photos of Liv, because I'd take the Polaroids, you know, just to say, well, this is what we wore here, this is what we wore here, you know. So those were sort of, and then if we had a day off, more than likely there'd be a press conference, and then there'd be a photo shoot. You know, it was the never ending, you know, of continuing.
Oh, the icon at that time, she was just, it was like.
Well, Grease had broken. Xanadu, you know, the song wise, but not so much, you know, for Olivia per se. I mean, it was still huge.
Physical was like a Teen Spirit moment in a way. It's just bomb going off.
You're absolutely right. And I think the way that she ended up doing it, because I'm sure you've heard of all the stories of when it first came out, she wasn't comfortable with it. It was too sexually.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I was too young. I was just into it. Like, you're a kid. Like, whoa, that's pretty good.
Specific.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think she was talking with Brian Grant, who was the video director, and Roger Davies, and just sort of saying, could we do it like it's an exercise thing? The exercise thing was really Olivia's idea.
Wow.
Change it from this overtly thing. I think the song was offered to Tina Turner first, and she didn't want to do it, you know, and whether or not she then chose to do What's Love Got to Do with It, you know. But all songs, you know, certain people could do it and it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But because Olivia was this little white bread, never would swear, you know, personality, and then she comes out and she's so much more animated and cheeky and everything, you know. Do you understand what the word cheeky is?
Oh, completely. I completely do.
I remember if I'd go to use it in America, they go.
No, I totally get it. And I remember her with what was the one? She almost had a top like me on that album my mom had. She went from that album.
It was turquoise that she had this just a little wrap top over another T-shirt, and
but very country looking, very almost and then she just
it's supposed looking like a shirt, and you know, so it. But I think it helped. Physical helped her grow. I mean, her clothes changed. Yeah. You know, the tour clothes, they became it's amazing. I wrote something in Instagram. There's a picture of Olivia. She's got on a white shirt, short sleeve shirt, a pair of white shorts, and a pair of white cowboy boots. And she looks like she could have been part of the Dallas Cheerleaders, but, you know, she doesn't. And she's up on stage and it's got a bit of white fringing on it. And I made the comment, I said, it's amazing how you can take a white shirt and some white pants, shove a bit of fringing on, a pair of cowboy boots, and you've got sex symbol personified, you know, because she felt more comfortable with herself, with the success of physical.
I get that. Yeah, like you were saying, Kiss, the same thing as Kiss, is they didn't perform in that way without the makeup, so that they didn't have the confidence and look it up that they had later on. So you're right. That totally makes sense.
Well, it's also, too, when Olivia was doing Vegas, even though, you know, we had the bodysuits on, which was something I decided on because it made costume changes easier. Once that bodysuit was on, we could layer, take off, put on, you know, quite quickly, you know, because she can't go off stage for 10 minutes and someone do a drum solo. You know, in Vegas that have left the room in those days, you know.
And what you're talking about too is like we talk about owning your clothes. They've always said own what you're wearing. You know when something's not owning what they're wearing.
And this is a big thing. It's one of those things. I look at a lot of things and I go, oh my God, that's so wrong on her. You know, I mean, it's one of those things. I'll look at the girl doing the news and I'm going, God, the wardrobe person's got frills here and big shoulders and then her hair down. And I'm this sort of person that goes, if there's a lot going on here, get the hair out. Get rid of it.
Balancing. Yeah, totally.
Particularly if you're 50. Because you just start to look like, bleh, you know,
and totally get it.
And it's really hard. And people say, "Oh, geez, you're really hard." And I go, "I'm only hard when I see it wrong. And if the person doesn't know it's wrong," I said, "That's why if I have a degree of pride over what I did, I made sure the person, the clothes, the hair, the makeup, it worked."
Yeah.
You know, she just walked out and it worked. I'll look at a lot of things and I go, oh, no, that's fine. But the other part of it's wrong. And so Olivia, as she became more confident, you know, her voice had done the talking. I mean, if you look at her, I mean, what she had on when she did Eurovision, when ABBA won.
Yeah.
And Olivia came second, and she's got on this little cute blue dress or something with all frills and things around it. And she's just standing up there singing. She's little Olivia from London, you know. Yeah. And then slowly as we worked together, and then what I thought was almost a phenomena, when she did Midnight Special the first time, I said, you've got to quit it with these frilly lace dresses. They're just horrible, really horrible. You know, you've got to wear some jeans or something. Yeah. So that was when I did the patchwork jeans. Oh. Those patchwork jeans sold for $50,000 in her auction.
Whoa! Now, you were probably one of the purveyors of the if that's the correct word, of the patchwork jeans, which even Roth wore patchwork jeans when she get to them.
You know, they were high waisted, they were flares, you know, and she just had that on and a t-shirt. Wow. And I think she did If You Love Me, Let Me Know. But it changed her all of a sudden.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have dresses that stopped her moving. She became freer. And so then I look at the first clothes going into Vegas, that they had satin, wide-legged pants underneath, you could see straight through the coat that she had on, because on stage, the light went straight through. Mm-hmm. So the coat is there and it's gossamer, it's shimmery, it's moving, but the light's going straight through and you're looking at this underneath, which no one was doing. I mean, Anne Margaret might have done it years ago with Elvis, but that whole thing. So she started to set up a sexual sensibility. Okay. But to her, she wasn't thinking that way. To the audience. And so you got this incredible, oh my God, she's so beautiful. God, she's so pretty. Oh, I need to protect her.
Yeah, my mom used to say about Olivia Newton-John, why she really liked Olivia Newton-John and Vanna White is they were really beautiful and sexy, but they didn't look like they were coming to steal your husband.
Exactly. It's an understatement. And this is what made men fall in love with her, because, my wife or my daughter, and you want to feel protected, you know, and then women were comfortable to copy, in their own ways. And so all of the time with Vegas and the longer dresses, but to me, movement was always the biggest thing on stage, that things moved, that things had extensions. It's like with David Lee Roth, if he put a shirt on, it didn't match the pants at all. It was never done up, but he would be playing with it, and he put his arm out, the shirt went out with it and the light went through it. So he becomes larger.
Whoa, that's so heavy. Yes.
Do you know what I mean? He's not this single projected self. He's this.
And this is the days before Jumbotron. So you have to project from the stage to the back of the arena. We don't have Jumbotrons everywhere either. Yeah. Wow.
And if you think about it, Van Halen, I mean, I wouldn't want to say they were the first, but if you look at other metal bands, whether it's Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, or you could go on and on and on, they pretty much had their positions on the stage. And they stayed there, except for Status Quo, when the three would get together and go, Van
Halen wrote it. Even the electricity needed to power the band. They were the first post the Who to go, we need this much electricity. We're putting this rock show in an arena, this spectacle on. Definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, and I guess really to many ways, they were probably the closest to a Who concept. Roger Daltrey, the mic cords, moving around. Pete Townsend and Eddie. You could almost, not that Eddie's looking at certain things, but you know the jumps that Pete Townsend used to do. And the guy is what, 6'2", but you know how he jumps up and his legs are brought up underneath him, you know, in those jumps. And
he wrote it for Springsteen too. Everybody, Pete Townsend was a physical guitar player.
Exactly. So there is almost, you could almost put a photo of Eddie over the Pete Townsend. Two very different weight and characters and players, but Pete Townsend with this arm just going and going, but his jumps up off the stage,
getting air like
up underneath him. That to me, the Who was probably one of the many, well, I mean, there's not a lot of English bands, and England at the time had rock and roll, you know, America had the Beach Boys and the Eagles, you know, sort of thing. But the movements of the Who, and then of course the Small Faces, but then Stevie Marriott didn't move a lot. He didn't have to. His voice did the work for him.
Yeah.
Rod came into the Faces and he moved a lot more, you know. So, and the running around stage, but prior to that, everything sort of stood. There's your mic stand. There's yours. Now stay with it.
They said when Springsteen came to the Roxy, when he played those infamous shows at the Roxy, and the Eagles and Dylan and everybody came, they were horrified because you had to move. You didn't just be a folk guy. He said, we're rewriting this template. You're running around.
Exactly. And so, of course, when Van Halen started doing that, but they could do it so well because they had David. I mean, you look at the shots that Niels Lozau has taken of Alex, you know, the drummer, the sweat, the hair, the whatever.
Primal.
How many drummers were sitting there? Do you know what I mean? For so
there's
long.
A picture of Eddie. It looks like he's defying gravity. Like he's standing
going up the wall.
Like what is that? It's unbelievable.
You think it's a great picture. I look at it and go, I don't know how the fuck you didn't split those pants.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Do you know what I mean? Because they were not made out of spandex. They were a fabric, a variation. So when he started doing those sort of jumps and things that he would do, I would go, oh my God, we're going to have a split right up the rear end anytime now. But anyhow, so you know, Olivia and also Olivia doing what she did opened up a sensibility to certain fabrics and styles, and in a way some of it could be carried across, which is probably what I did with Rod. You know, Rod started wearing shearer shirts and layering and colors.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Olivia. I go, that was the beginning, some beginnings of rock and roll. You look at her, her and Linda Ronstadt were two that, and Olivia was more like that started like there wasn't a lot to choose from. That was rock and roll when you saw her.
Yeah, and then the songs became more that. I mean, she was going into Vegas and she's doing old standards. You know, she's got Don Rickles opening for her.
Oh my God. Wow.
This is the era when you go into Vegas and you do 2 shows a night.
Yeah.
You know, you have the dinner show and you have the supper show, the drink show. So that when they come out of the dinner, they're locked into the casino. You know, they get all machines and stuff, you know. And when she first went in, she went in opening for Charlie Rich. Now, Charlie Rich,
I don't remember.
He's a country singer, you know, but he was not a young guy even then. So Olivia's coming in and opening for Charlie Rich, you know, and he's just sitting there with his guitar, typical country performance, you know, and huge in country. Then she comes out and she's tripping across the stage, tripping the Like Fantastic with a little gossamer floating around. And all of a sudden the guys in the audience are going, oi, this is fun.
Yeah,
you know? The wives are looking at Charlie Rich and looking at their husbands and going, oh, I don't know, you know. Yeah. So in her way, she changed the look of Vegas in those early years, because that's 74 went into Vegas. And in that year, I did Raquel in Vegas, Helen Reddy in Vegas.
Remember Kim Fowley was working with Helen Reddy. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, well, see, I think, we had the conversation about like when I met Kim Fowley.
Yeah, but just I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar is Kim Fowley. Just the spell to do that and the Runaways. You got to give it to him. He hit it all.
Exactly. And Rodney Binghamheimer. And Rodney Binghamheimer was this short, unassuming, shy, and you could see him walking around and you go, hi, Rodney, and you go, oh, hi, you know.
Kim called him a gnome. It was Kim's best friend, but he goes, he's like a gnome.
It was. But as a DJ and whatever, the things he was doing on radio, they were different.
It still does, you
know, he was changing it, you know. And so Kim Fowley was very brash, you know. And I thought, oh well, I've met my equal here. But you know, we got along well, and we banged into each other on and off, you know, over the years. I mean, it's such a small world. But so working with Olivia like that, I had nothing to do with Xanadu at all. I didn't have anything to do with Grease. I would love to have done Grease, but I hadn't done film at that time. So they used a gentleman by the name of Albert Walsky, who had done other films, I think, you know, with directors, you know. And I think, you know, everything was fine. The 50s are the 50s. You can't do much.
But maybe you probably influenced through your friendship and that dress. The biggest part of that movie is her transformation from good girl to semi-bad girl. That's the moment. It's what's in her. It's not really. The
funniest thing is everybody goes, oh my God, we've been walking and around looking like that tart for probably a year in the skin tight black jeans or boots and leather jackets, you know, in our own lives on tour, which yes, it would have come from me. Because that's, I haven't changed from 1977. Cowboy boots, black tight jeans.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah.
You know, I will still, I mean, I think at last count, I've got 13 black leather jackets.
That's what I mean. You two look like sisters more and more as everything goes on through your photos. I love it.
I think it goes from where she starts to look more like me. I would never have looked like
You're pretty solid. You've held.
I've never been a prim or very proper person. It's like I'll show you, like right here now, you can see this mark. This is called too long on surfboards.
Okay, there you go. Well, even you with the Harleys the other day, the picture, you look so comfortable with the Harleys, with Mike Tramp on the Harleys. You look like totally in your element. That's that look.
But that's what I'd always done. But it's like this sort of thing is the price you pay, that he had to cut a thing out of my face. You know, thank you very much. I hope it's healed before I go on camera. But it's a reality. I mean, I'm very grateful that for all the time of being in the sun and sitting out on surfboards for 8 hours and in LA and having your car as a convertible for 9 months. I mean, my hands are starting to look 90 years old because do you know what I mean? They've just been in the sun. But I look at it as but that's my life. That's who I am. That's what I did, you know. And so in that way, Olivia started to become a bit more adventurous as a result. I mean, I have to admit, when we were on the road, I got us into so much trouble sneaking out of hotels in Japan, forgetting 2 5'7" long blonde-haired girls not noticed in Tokyo.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Running for our lives. And the Bay City Rollers were there at the same time.
Oh, my God.
They're in the same hotel. So we're sneaking out. Read the book.
Okay. Wow. I can't wait.
But, you know, and Olivia started to feel more comfortable because I was there and supported her. And even though I was the costume designer, frequently a lot of things were left to me. I was her security. I took her to the stage. I met her off the stage. I did this. I did that. If you wanted to meet Olivia, you had to get past me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because the trust.
Yeah.
I mean, Olivia put so much trust in me, considering what a disreputable sort of person I was, in the sense of being naughty, you know, and doing that. Like there are times she'd come into my room at 8 o'clock in the morning and go, Flower, what do you want for breakfast? I've been in bed an hour because I've been out with the band at every club imaginable.
Yeah.
You know, because that's me. That's the rock. That's the music. That's the whatever, you know. And so, and sometimes should it be if I had somebody in my room, I had to sort of push them out of the bed onto the floor and cover them with the bed covers.
Oh my God, I love it.
Liv's just standing there and I go, oh, all right, okay, yeah, well, order me this and this. I'll be out in a minute. Wow. I mean, so much stuff, you know, in a way. I was not good with the boredom on the road. I mean, for her, she had to stay in the room. You know, she couldn't go here, she couldn't go there. But in Vegas, we'd get up about 10 in the morning. I mean, I was never interested in being in the casinos. I'd go down and stand next to the guys, in the band, because I could get free Kahlua and milks.
Oh, that's amazing.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So we pretty much went to bed after the second show. We'd watch a movie, but we'd get up and we'd get down to the pool around 9:30 so we could swim and nobody would be down there. But then people would start coming down and I'd be going, what do you reckon? We've got 10 minutes before somebody recognizes you.
Wow. That's huge.
We'll have to go back up, inside. And that's where we were. Our greatest joy was in Vegas because the shops were open 24 hours.
Ooh,
was going to the drugstore and shopping. The amount of crap we bought.
What did you buy at the drugstore? What you buy at the drugstore? It is a fun place, isn't it? Like I still like CVS.
Oh, look, this hand cream looks okay. Or maybe I'll try this. Or maybe we'll both dye our hair red tonight. How will that go down?
Oh my gosh.
But we had freedom in there because I think the people in the drugstore were used to celebrities coming in at this hour. And there's no other people really around. The normals have gone home, the hotels are closed, the staff's gone to bed. So it was really like having a free reign out of 24 hours of being to do what we wanted to do, And just because we both were horse mad and we had horses, we of course went over and met Wayne Newton because he had this incredible stud farm of stallions and
this is in Vegas because he was a big Vegas guy. He owned.
Well, he lived there. He was permanently there. So we'd go over and meet him and see the horses, and so what we did after a while, we would trailer our horses down to Vegas or cross to Vegas, and leave them at Wayne Newton's ranch. They'd look after them.
Would you from Los Angeles? Is that where you're bringing them in from?
We would trailer them from Los Angeles to Vegas, and leave them at Wayne's ranch. So that in the day we could go over, get our own horses and go for a ride in the desert. Now, when you're in Vegas for 2 weeks doing 2 shows a night, it's, the routine and the set way of it, to be able to get on your horse and ride across the desert like friggin' John Wayne. You mentally, you needed it. The wind in your hair, lead in the pencil, whole thing, And so that was the godsend of finding ways when you're not a part of, I can't wait to be in the casino and get drunk and gamble.
Yeah.
We just were not interested in those things at all, So to find the things to do that, kept us happy, kept the mood up, was doing things like having horses and stuff around us. But so a lot of the time, it was pretty full on. And when I look at the diaries and see the constant timing, the constant this and the constant that, and then I realized something the other night, and I was watching it because I was reading through, because I'm writing all the Motley stuff now.
Okay.
And there's always been this thing. I had in my head 1983, Olivia does the Academy Awards. Motley Crue is at my place in Ocean Avenue, where the photo of Michael and I is on the motorbike.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
That's right in front of the apartment there. And,
is that one Ocean Avenue, that big building right there? I don't know.
No, I was further up, halfway out. I was like about 2 blocks north of where Wiltshire hits Ocean Avenue.
Okay.
When you go along Ocean Avenue, there's that white pagoda. What do you call them? No, you don't call them pagodas.
Pagoda works for me. Gazebo, pagoda, whatever. Yeah.
There's a white thing there just before you go down the ramp to cut across Pacific Coast. We literally lived in front of that, and we used to see lots of weddings.
Okay, yeah. I totally know what you're saying.
So they've come to my house. I've now finished the sketches. They've got them in the rawest form, and they've got options. So they've come to my place that afternoon. I am so sick with the flu and laryngitis, which is what always happens to me if I'm overly stressed. And when I look here in times, I'm going to bed at 4 a.m. and I'm getting up at 8 and then working right through to midnight again. The lifestyle, and I was not a drug person.
Yeah.
I was not.
There's no way you could have kept that pace.
Well, exactly. And I think, I'm an adrenaline junkie, like who would notice that? but you know, if you're going to be bipolar and if you're going to be manic, then at least take advantage of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh.
It's like I couldn't have sat in a room, you know, like this. Like Dylan, you know, he's a brilliant photographer. He's a brilliant commercial artist. He's got his degree with high distinctions in it. But when he found out that he'd probably have to work in an office, he backed off. So he was doing, he's still not really sure what he wants to do. And what he's doing now, where he's sitting in a room and on a phone, the poor guy's nearly going ballistic.
I'm sure.
And I keep saying to him, your father and I could no more have done this than fly in the air.
No way.
I said, I would have gone and done, not that it's a bad career, I would have been filling shelves. I would have been doing something or picked up the garbage cans, anything. Yeah. I couldn't do, you know, so, and now that we're in lockdown, he of course is the only people who are earning money because
that's true.
Job, you know, so he goes, I'll hang in for it a little bit longer, Mum, I'll hang in. I said, look, it's up to you. And if you want to quit, I'm only concerned about your mental health.
That's
you know,
awesome. Yeah.
You come from a pretty flipped out family who has all sorts of
Fleur and Mike Tramp, I'd say that's pretty amazing.
You know, and I won't, I mean, Michael's issues I'll leave alone, but but I accept mine. And it's funny, as I go through my diaries and trying to make relationships work, and every now and then there's a snap, and the guy I'm involved with going, you know, you've got to stop this. You're mental, you're moody, you're depressed, you're this and you're that. And I'm just sort of going, oh, okay, am I? You know, because I'm out around people and I'm not thinking about it. Not that I'm yelling at anybody, but the thing was, I couldn't for the life of me think in what did Olivia have on? So I tracked it down last night. I could find one picture. She comes out on stage and she's giving the Song of the Year award. And Up Where We Belong, I think, was the song that won. And I've got written somewhere in there, Olivia's definitely going to wear the green dress. And I'm going, green dress. And I don't have blocks of, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then when she came in, well, the whole thing was I didn't go to the Oscars that day. Okay. One, because I was sick, and two, because I had the meeting. And, you know, she was ringing me on and off like, I don't know if I look okay. I don't, you know, because I wasn't around. And then when she came out in it and I go, I'm looking at this green dress. I don't ever remember designing it. I mean, I did. Because it's all written up in my day books.
Yeah.
Because I think I was so caught up in all the Van Halen stuff that I was almost robotically going through the other things. They were not sticking to me.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah.
In that sense, because at this point in time, and it's funny because I'm seeing things just in there like the guy who was representing me, he said, hold off on the lawyers, hold off on the sketches. They still haven't signed the contract. You know, Doc hasn't still signed the contract.
Doc McGee, okay.
You know what I mean? And it's funny because all this stuff is written in the diary that I don't necessarily thought about at the time. But, you know, so there's things like that. But then, and that 83 is probably one of the last things that I did with Liv.
Wow.
You know, so you're looking at 73, we first met. So the 10-year run in it.
That's a long run. That's when it just exploded.
Well, and I think also too, once I started working with Rod, because he was now touring Footloose Fancy Free or whatever it was, because it was just after Atlantic Crossing. And I remember being in Japan on tour with Olivia, and Rod is calling me. He goes, well, how much longer are you away? So it had really got for me, if I'm going to do more and everything, I can't be gone on tour.
Right.
You know, yeah. So in relationships, it was a moot point. I'm on tour. I'm working. Don't call me. Leave me alone. You know, but when it came to work and clients, that was the 100% the first priority, you know. So by the time of end of 77, I'd stopped going on the road. But at this time, I'm also dealing with Van Halen because I'm realizing that 78, you know, you're starting to get all the big festivals.
Right.
That everybody's doing. Van Halen's doing Us Festival. What date was Us Festival? You know, and then when I come out with Motley in 83, they go from doing gigs, and then I look at them when they're out there on the Us Festival.
God.
And here are these 4 guys, this massive audience. They've never worked in front of that many people before.
They said they were playing clubs to 200 people the week before.
They were doing Starwood or the Whiskey or something. And I'm looking at them and they've got the gear on and I'm thinking, and if you look at the camera shots of the crowd, they're just not sure. You know, they're still standing there a little bit like this and slowly then the arms come up. But those 4 guys walked onto that stage, and Vince particularly, no big deal. But, you know, they just wore it themselves. Their mental came out on that. And whether 10,000 people liked them or 100,000 people liked them, this was rock and roll.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Fleur. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Their lives are never going to be the same again.
So I think that's where these things cross, where it goes from Olivia, and that's just the beginning of a whole nother thing.
It's a whole era. I mean, well, the thing you've got to realize, 1980 comes MTV.
Yeah.
Now, I probably did 80% of what was on MTV because I was the only one.
You were. I remember that as a kid. That's like Fleur, like everything.
Yeah. And it was funny because in Richard's book, when I was reading it, and then because Mark Slaughter or somebody said, oh, well, every band worked with Ray Brown and we all looked the same, you know, and there's a degree of truth in that. And I was determined that if you worked with me, you didn't look the same look, you know, and there is a bit of that. If you start looking at a lot of the bands who came in that middle line, whether it's Faster Pussycat, Slaughter's band, I mean, you could go on and on. There was like a mainstream right through, and then going around them was the White Snakes, the White Lions, the Great Whites, the
Whites, yeah,
and the Rat and the this and that, and they sort of rolled around this running line of looks, you know.
Yeah.
But when that happened, a lot of people didn't understand TV, and in a lot of the times, the video directors came from commercials.
Yeah.
You know? So now they're dealing with human beings and human elements, not just a video where the client or a commercial where the client's being paid. Now you're doing a video on people who own everything you're going to do as far as the director's concerned. This is me you're selling. I'm a real person. I'm not a model, you know.
Yeah.
So that all really, really changed. But getting back to with Olivia, I think to a certain degree, I mean, not too many guys in bands would have said to me, oh, you know, I really like what Olivia wears. But the thing that they were wearing, where everything, if it looked like rock and roll before, it was black, it was dark, it was solid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
You know, but if you look at the Stones, all color.
Total Peter Max, right? Wasn't Peter Max even doing the sets on Still Life? It was total color.
Total color and movement and everything. And also too, you know, you look at Roger Daltrey and he's getting out there with his fringing. Look, he was not a big person, but look how huge he looked on stage when he started rolling that microphone around and the arms going and the fringing going. It's a visual feast that the English bands had.
Love that. Visual feast.
And then Van Halen adopted it. For Kiss, I mean, not so much for Kiss, but for Motley when they first started, you can see they had the same problems that Kiss had. Their clothes didn't allow them free rein.
Yeah.
But slowly the clothes start to fall apart. Right. And you don't care. The strappings are breaking. This is breaking. But they start to look really good. You know, that's what the brand new 4 guys on their album cover is sort of like, oh, it's too clean, you know. So it all shifts and changes. But what they started noticing was lighter weight fabrics that could still look masculine, that could be lit through, which gave a different effect on stage to rock and roll, you know. Yeah. And David Lee Roth was probably the first to pick up on that. But then Rod did a lot of it too. His was a different sort of thing. But people were going to shows
both
now.
Sports-oriented guys, Rod and Dave, very, very physical, like sports in their off time.
Exactly. And I think people started, by the time you got towards the end of the 70s, people were expecting a visual fiesta.
Yeah.
You know, it's the black and the dark and the heaviness was all shifting. Now, whether or not that had any effect as to why Kiss wanted to change, because if they're watching all the bands, the blackness is disappearing. The 80s just became a screaming color thing, you know.
And Bon Jovi I think Bon Jovi had a big influence on Kiss because of how huge they were, mega they were.
Exactly. And I think, and they're looking at, you know, John, you know, boy from New Jersey and all of this, all that. So it's sort of, things are affecting them. And they're sort of, I don't know, because it's not a conversation, but that thing is, did they feel they were being left behind? The music industry was changing. MTV was changing. I don't think Kiss ever went on MTV as The Masked.
You know, I mean, I think the "I Love It Loud" video, but don't know. It was someone was just on here saying, you know, Kiss were cool, but they were 35 in the 80s when we were coming of age, which seemed at that time old. Whereas Motley Crue, you felt like a kid. Like if they said, "Hey, kid, come backstage. I have all this goat's blood in the skull. You need to drink it with us," you would have did it. I thought that was a great way to put it. You know what I mean? They just had us at that point.
Well, Tommy was 19.
Yeah.
When I met them, that I can, and then Eddie just turned 21 or whatever. But you know, so the whole big picture was changing. And if you look at the size of the amps on stage, you look at the lighting, you look at everything, it's absolutely gone ballistic. You know, so everybody, you know, if you're going to be seen against that wall of light, you know, like I was looking at some of the Scorpion stuff, and they really use lighting, you know, to make them larger than life, and also particularly now when they're in their 70s.
And they were never super lookers. I mean, like it's like Klaus. We love Klaus. He's one of the best singers, but he's not Vince in '83. You know what I mean?
Oh no, and I think that's the thing when you look at Kiss and realizing they're in their mid-30s. These kids who are under 24, they've got no idea if they're going to be successful. It's in their mind, they've got nothing to lose. Let's just go for it. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Kids are like, oh, do we, don't we? And whether second guessing themselves, but then looking at because when MTV happened, you got to see every band that was coming out from your living room.
Well, think about this, and we haven't talked about this, and we talked about Kiss a lot. No liquid confidence with Kiss either. Motley Crue doesn't feel confident in their clothes. They take a drink, you're feeling a little bit better about yourself. A few lines, a few drinks, and there's a little empowerment to that. You're rocking. Yeah. Whereas Gene and Paul just there's nothing, false empowerment.
Yeah, it's got to come from them, you know, and I agree with that. I think that for them in the 70s, you had nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
Because unless you watch Midnight Special, or unless you know, I mean, I don't even think Saturday Night Live had started then, you know, where were you going to go on stage? I mean, all of a sudden MTV, and anything anybody is doing is in your living room. And they're looking at band after band after band, whether it's Bon Jovi, whether it's Gunners, whether it's this, they're just coming out of the woodwork. And they're selling millions of albums, and they're doing stadiums and all of this. And so you've got to get to a point, boy, can we catch up to this? And how do we do it? And whether or not that was anything really to do with, you know, taking off the face makeup or anything, I don't know, you know. But they put themselves right in that middle of the 80s and went for it. Which
I mean, I loved it as a kid. I liked the change. I was into it. I was into the sound, the change. Vinnie Vincent. It was a change. I think it worked.
I think you got to get a sense of who the guys were too, rather than these. I mean, if Paul wasn't well, somebody else could put that makeup on and lip sync.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, totally.
The other way, you're it. We're looking at you. If you haven't got a voice, you haven't got
and the other thing is, they did that change, so they gave MTV something to embrace. So if MTV repeatedly played your video and you were good and you had a semi-good song, success was kind of guaranteed.
Well, exactly, and I think a lot of it was onto that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I've written about, you know, like, you know, I really get in and ream the record companies. You know, they had no idea what they were doing. I mean, it's like signing bands they didn't even know what to do with.
Everybody wants a new story, so Kiss also had another story, which you say like, here's another story. That's not the same old story. Everybody wants to break a new story.
Well, exactly. And but you know, they're going out and they'd say, oh, you know, can you go down the whiskey and see this band? You know, we're thinking of signing them, and can you go down here and can you? And the funny thing is, no one ever rang me to say, can you go look at Gunners at the whiskey?
Yeah.
Everybody was just talking about them. You know, when you walked into the whiskey and you see Guns N' Roses on stage and 15 people standing there looking at them, and they're sort of like, whoa. And by the time Guns N' Roses were doing that, that audience had sort of been affected, you know, by Motley. They'd been affected by Bon Jovi. They'd been affected. But looking at Axl and Slash on stage, this was different.
Yeah.
This was a whole new ballpark of music, great music, rock on, you know. And if they went in for a couple of nights, they'd be the first night and I'd go down and have a look. Okay, 15 people. The second night, you can't fit them in. That's how fast the word would go on Sunset Boulevard. You got to go to the whiskey.
Well, it was like as dangerous as Motley Crue, but also footed in Nazareth. It was like what was not going on. One foot in the past, one foot in the future. It seemed like with them.
Exactly, and I think Slash did not been a guitar player that looked like that or sounded like it.
No.
I mean, they were really, really different. I mean, Axl could be a cross between a Vince or John Bon Jovi, you know, as far as the prettiness and the hair and all of that. Yeah. But Axl's voice was just so distinctive. Yeah. I mean, Guns N' Roses and Slash were meant to be.
They really were.
And Axl, it just was right. I can't imagine any other singer.
And it changed everything. It changed how Motley Crue dressed. It changed everybody. Starting to go more leather, more biker. All of a sudden, glam guys turned into bikers.
Yes, yeah. And that was the thing. I chat every now and then to Gilby Clarke. And and I say, if I can get into the bloody States, I'm coming on these rides that you do.
Oh, those rides do look cool, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's huge. There'd be like 20 guys, you know, on Gilby's rides that they're, you know, and Doug Aldrich, and there's this person and there's that person. But I think what's so great is how these guys have sort of stayed together. I mean, they're your mates. They're the ones you call.
You see Tammy from Faster Pussycat with Gilby on those rides. It really is cool.
And they're basically grown up together. I mean, it's more than 20 years, you know. Yeah. So they've gone from being these little shits of 21, 22 to fathers and husbands and working. And then you get the lockdown where their tours are torn apart, everything's torn apart, which is part of their makeup. Those tours are part of the blood in their bodies. You know, when they can't do that, it's like, and the fact that they've sort of those that all live in the LA area, you know, and that so many have moved to Vegas. So it's unbelievable.
Gene Simmons just bought a house in Vegas.
Did he? Well, the thing there's a lot to do with. If you live in California, you're taxed twice. You've got federal and state taxes. Move to Vegas, you only tax once. Right. So if you want like when I moved to Lake Tahoe, I was David Coverdale had moved there. A lot of people had moved there. You know, and you know, I think Dylan was 6 months old when we ended up moving there. I mean, it put me out because I had to fly every other day to LA to work with clients, you know. Right. But at the same time, it was a beautiful place for Dylan to spend his first 6 years of life.
Yeah.
To be at Lake Tahoe, to learn to ski at 3, you know, and be around and be, you know, he just took for granted that David was his mate and Rod was a mate, and Rod's son Liam, all he was told was, please don't kill him. Things like that. He had no concept. He just raced through it, you know. And the hardest part for him, God love him now, is if a conversation starts and one of his mates said to someone, do you know who Dylan's dad is? Yeah. And then it all starts and Dylan's like, can I just be a person?
Yeah.
And you see it with everyone. You see it with everyone who's got children. The effect of parent success or non-success or whatever it is, it's tough on them. But you know, but for me, I mean, I enjoyed the time. You know, I spent in Tahoe. It's a beautiful place to be. But anyway, so with Olivia, I mean, that's sort of the main part of her. And I think in some ways what I was doing with her, because I'd only done guys, like you said about where I started.
And you started with Bon Scott, even when he's a drummer. You work with Bon as a drummer, right?
Yeah. And this is the era of bubblegum pop rock, where everyone sort of wore the same outfits and all this sort of stuff, you know. So there was a band called The Zoot, and Rick Springfield came out of that. and B. Birtles, who's Little River Band, he came out of that. And my first husband came out of that. A guy called Daryl Cotton was the singer of the band.
Okay.
And when I started working with them, it became a relationship, as it does. I mean,
it's like movie sets. It's what happens. It's like the movie set.
Well, you have a type, And so I always say now, of course I dated lead singers of bands. They were never home. I could do what the hell I wanted. I could work. I mean, I don't think there's one person I've ever dated that I've called them at 4 o'clock in the morning in the studio and said, "Oi, where are you? Where are you coming home?"
Yeah.
No, I was thrilled,
Yeah.
But when it goes in the reverse, I'm being called.
Yeah.
I've been trying to call your room for 3 hours. Yeah. And I go, you have to stop this. And we don't have phones. This is messages. And I go, I've been sitting with Rudolf Schenker for the past 3 hours, sketching, drawing clothes, doing this, doing that. Yeah, well, I haven't been able to sleep because I couldn't talk to you. And I'm going, oh, for fuck's sake. Get a life.
That's amazing.
So when things would keep going like that, I would just turn and say, I think you need to start seeing other people. Wow. I'm never going to be home at 6 o'clock to cook a meal. It's just not going to happen, Yeah. And so that was me. That was the tomboy. That was the very male side of me of, you take something on, you do it till you're dead.
Right. 100%. Going 100%. I love it.
Excuses. There's no bullshit. And I think that for me, that my integrity is what gave me the work.
Yeah.
I can remember it sometimes here in Australia, I'd be doing musicals and things, and somebody would be doing stuff, and I'd say, okay, well, I'll pick it up at 10 in the morning, and I'll get there. Oh, I couldn't get it done. And I'm like, ooh, what do you mean? I couldn't get that sense of that I always had in LA and around people. You get it done. You get it done. And so it just, for me, it got to the point that I just didn't trust anybody. And I would stay up. Like when I look at, I've gone to the Roxy, I've gone to see a show. Now I'm back at the studio at 11 p.m. I'll probably work till 4 in the morning because I've got to have this finished for fittings at 10.
Right.
That was just what I did. Wow. But I never, ever once had to ring someone and say, couldn't get you. I never said you didn't give me enough time.
Right.
They always had it. So when people would say, because a lot of people sort of used people here to make clothes, and they go, oh, but it drives me mad. It's always chaos and it's never done on time. And they'd go, just call Fleur.
Love it.
Just deal with it. And so, that whole life, and I think being on the road with Olivia, I was learning all of this. It was all seeping through. I'm now dealing with the tops of some of the biggest record companies in the world. I'm dealing with this. I'm not just the little girl. And Liv and I were talking the other day because I'd said to her, will you do a forward for the book? Because there's 4 people I want to do forwards. And anybody can do it, but there's 4 sort of. And we were chatting away, and I said, it's so funny, Olivia, that when I read things like, oh, you're iconic, you're a legend, this.
You are.
Yeah. And she started laughing. She goes, those 2 Aussie Sheilas did okay, didn't they?
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that.
And so, because the same thing when she came here and we met, we were both under bubblers. She didn't know, was she going to get a career? She'd sold records well, and things like that. But once she started touring, was it going to work out? Were there going to be big enough tours? Vegas was, because she started in mainstream, she had Vegas to do. Now, isn't it funny? Scorpions are going into Vegas for a residency next year. Once upon a time, a rock band would never.
Except David Lee Roth. He was talking about it from day one.
It was because he was the showman. He was the circus. He was, let me get my tap shoes out. Yeah. Let me be Gene Kelly come David Lee Roth, Yeah. So if she that was there, these shows were there. You got the people coming out of Minnesota. I mean, they're coming out of winter, going to Vegas, But I have to say, these are some of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Well, things change. I was just watching Miami Vice and old Miami Vice. Yeah. And Don John, some kid just puts on Iron Maiden, a new Iron Maiden song at the time, like 30 years ago, and Don Johnson takes it off and puts on Eric Clapton and says, "This is music. We'll see where your band's going to be in 20 years."
Yeah.
And he said, Iron Maiden are bigger than ever. I was like, wow, that was pretty wild. It's just certain things.
Well, it was the new thing. And I mean, if you look at it, is that the cover, they've got the skulls, or the Iron Maiden had Eddie, didn't they? The monster Eddie.
Oh, yeah.
So when you start looking at artwork like that, that had never existed, it would be a nice picture of Jimi Hendrix, or it would be a nice picture of the Who, or is it the Stones pissing up against the wall, or is that the Who?
I think it's the Stones backwards. I think it's they were pissing on Who's Next on something, I think, or something.
Yeah, and so it's like everything's changing, and a personality's changing, and an expectation is changing. People are not going to shows anymore. And I mean, you see the difference. If you look at, I remember going to see the Beatles, in 1984. Now, other than the fact of the screaming, which God was merciless, but I tell you what, it put me in training for the Sean Cassidys and the Leif Garretts later on. And somebody in one of my Instagram said to me, I said, I often wondered, just who were the loudest screamers, Sean or this, and she goes, trust me, I'm a One Direction fan. They have the loudest screamers.
They probably do, don't they? My niece passed out of like years ago, just overwhelming.
Look at the size of the stadiums that One Direction is doing now compared to shows that Sean Cassidy would have done. Do you know what I mean? You've jumped from 10,000 to 25, 40. So of course the level of screaming is going to be more. But if you look at any of this, basically people are sitting. If you look at the Ed Sullivan show, when Elvis came on and he could only shoot him from the waist up, you can't show the pelvis, pelvis. The audience is sitting there, they're sort of screaming, but they don't know what to do with themselves. But slowly through the 50s and the 60s, the music got underneath their sexual territory, got them up out of their seats.
Well, the Kiss song, Get Up, Kiss wrote what to do. You're right. Get up, everybody's going to lose their feet. Get down, everybody's going to leave their seat. Yeah.
Yeah, so now, if your audience is sitting, you're dying in the ring, mate. It doesn't matter. It's like, I think that's why they, like if Aussie's here or Melbourne or anyway, there's always that's general admission on the ground floor. The seats are taken out because they know that the kids who are coming to see these, they want to slam dance. They want to mosh pit. They don't want to be sitting in their seat going, oh, look at me. So it's an historical change of life that comes out of the 70s. People felt freer, in everything they did, go to concerts, take your shirts off, take your pants off, whether it started in Woodstock, it doesn't matter, the freedom. Now, obviously you can say, well, I guess drugs had a part of it, but, it's just what it is. So I can see some things that I started doing for female artists, we'll say particularly Pat Benatar or Lita Ford, some of that stuff starts crossing over, particularly Lita, because I just saw a picture of Lita, and I think her first show Saturday night or something, and she's quite metalled up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Much more so than ever. Now, I don't know whether that then relates to the music that she's doing, but I was interested in reading something way, way back where she said she got to a point because if they were on a TV show, she noticed the cameraman would always go to the guy guitar player, because they didn't figure that she was really playing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? So in the end, she said, screw this with the extra guitar player. I'm the guitar player. I'm the one you're going to put the camera on.
That mockingbird in her is so cool.
So she changed that format too of women in music. And, Hart started way before her. But Nancy would love to have put on, I think, a Lita Ford metal outfit. Yeah. And just gone for it. Absolutely just gone for it. Nancy Wilson, to me, underneath had that rocker.
Oh, well, they still cover Zeppelin. Yeah, you're totally right. Total rocker.
Who was I talking to? I know what it was. It's a guy called Roy Bennett is what I know him as, but Leroy Bennett now. And he was he worked with Prince for years and years, all his lighting, all his production, all of everything. He did the lighting for whatever award show that was on. And is it the guy Weekend is singing with
The Weekend. Okay, yeah.
with the girl. Is it Ariana?
I think he does do a song with Ariana Grande. Yeah.
Well, you know the thing at the back, all the lights and the glass?
I didn't see it, but I'm sure.
Okay, yeah. Well, Roy did that. But anyway, we worked together on Raquel's show. We worked together on a lot of different things. And he was just saying about, I said, when I look back and the moments we sat in rehearsals and watching these artists, no noise, they're just playing. It's really like you've died and gone to hell.
Oh,
yeah. And I said, about working with Jimmy Page and that. And he goes, Heart were one of the best. He said, I loved them. And he said, and what about when Heart did the show for Led Zeppelin, and Jack Black co-hosted it, and then Heart came out and sang.
Oh my gosh!
They just ripped the guts out of it.
They just so good. They just
tore it apart. And he said it's they probably still do it on stage, but he said you can see that inner self.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Just do Butterfly again, but do it with this and this, Barracuda, I mean, so women have been there in a very strong way, but it all started to shift and change. And so, I mean, Olivia's career really changed in the 80s. Like, I think that what I did in 83 was probably the last thing I did. And because at that point then, I don't know if it's 82, she starts Koala Blue. And I had nothing to do with that at all.
I don't even know what that is. So it probably fell off. I don't know.
It's a shop that she started. It was a clothing line that she started. It started as one shop on Melrose Avenue, and it was really a shop about Australia. You could get Australian milkshakes and buy violet crumbles, and you could do this and you could do that. And she called it Koala Blue. And so and as a one shop, it drew an incredible crowd of tourism and everything. But then business people got involved and started to make it bigger and make it bigger and make it bigger, to where they went too far. Now there were too many shops in malls too close to each other, and it starts to implode, And I will never, ever forget, because Olivia has been one of these people so did not deserve it. I was driving up La Cienega Boulevard, and just as you come along Santa Monica Boulevard to La Cienega, there's always a massive billboard up there that sort of sits across what used to be the Playboy building.
I don't remember, but I'm sure.
Be up on Sunset anyway. You're just a baby.
No, I remember the Playboy building up the street. No, you're right at the top at Sunset. Yes. Exactly. I just know that corner is the Doors for years. Like, I wasn't alive for that, but the Doors corner at La Cienega and Santa Monica, that's Electra. The door were changed. But yes, the Playboy at the top, the big black building. Yes.
Yeah. So there was a huge billboard there. I think it was there, but La Cienega had a lot of big billboards as you drove up it. It's one of the few places that you'd see billboards. And there'd been a picture of Olivia and Pat Farah up on that board. And I don't know if it was promoting Koala Blue, but somebody had got up and put huge black Hitler mustaches on them.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it was really defaming. It was really everything, of course, everybody. And I couldn't understand to do that, to live in some way, because, the business wasn't going well and people were losing their houses, all this sort of stuff. But I went, wow, that's going a long way. And I will never, ever forget that image. I think I had to stop the car and burst into tears. Yeah. And I went, so from this is where it ended up.
Yeah.
People did this, and I think in some ways there are certain things it put you off.
Yeah.
Life to a degree. And so in 83, I mean, Matt is with her at that, at the Academy Awards. I don't know if they're married then or not, but then she goes from Koala Blue, because she's been with Matt since Xanadu, and then they get married, and then they have Chloe, so in that 82 almost through to 90, you'll find that there's more of a lull in what she's doing. And I think they came out to Australia and lived for a while, So at that point, I don't even really see much of Olivia at all. Yeah. My life has completely shifted, 80% of me is on MTV, and I'm being called from which way to the next, and, everything imaginable. And I'm just taking it in my stride and going for it, because I'm doing what I love. I love the music. I love you know, everything about it. I'm just ecstatic, but it's a very chaotic time, you know. So really the big change is probably Motley. I'm trying to think between 80 and 82 other than Rod. And I mean, I know I was working with Eric Carr. Rick Springfield was now really bounding out. You know, he had just
huge.
He had Speak to the Sky as a single in the late 70s, and then, you know, had Jesse's Girl, and he was touring. So it sort of, there was this middle rock thing that came, and then you get to 82 and it's going a bit harder, and then Motley come out with a much harder thing, and from there it completely shifts, you know, whether it's, you know, there's a certain degree of mimicry, there's certain of this and certain of that, and I think, you know, for me, I would love to have worked with them on Theatre of Pain and kept on working with them, but you know, they didn't call me, and that's the way it goes.
Well, those bands start tearing through people. It seems like from producers to everything, they just tear through things. It seems like all those bands, you know what I mean?
But I'm just grateful that, you know, we've stayed friends. I mean, as I go through my diary, I go, oh, there's the passes, went to see Motley Crue here, or somebody was at the Roxy and the Whiskey, and those places, it really, I'm just trying to find.
And you made the most important Crue picture, that Shout at the Devil. Someone just held it up on one of my interviews. That inside of Shout is the most important picture they ever took.
Well, that's what I say. When I read Nothing But a Good Time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into it as much here, but in the book, you know, I'm going for it. Is that it was really interesting reading the bits that were in there from, was it Elektra?
Yeah.
That was Motley's label.
Yeah.
You would think they created the designs, they created the album cover. You would think that Motley Crue couldn't have existed without them. The way Bryn Brindlethorne, you know,
Brandenthal, yeah. Same publicist that Guns had,
you know, I mean, all of these people I would bang into all the time. And there's a part of all of that record company stuff, I just have no respect for them. Fortunately, they didn't pay my bills.
Right.
It was irrelevant. But when I was reading that, and they're all like this and they're all like that, and they did this and they do that, and I made a comment, I didn't get one phone call from the record company to say thank you. I never got the gratuitous platinum album.
Oh, wow.
Nothing. But I will see an album on a dentist's wall. Now, I'm not blaming Nikki or the guys for all of that. They were fighting for their lives still, for who they were, for their credibility. And I knew what they were up against because I knew what record companies were like. And that is where in the beginning, you know, when I'm getting a phone call saying, hold the sketches, they haven't signed the contracts, I knew it had nothing to do with Nikki and the band. And that was when we'd spent so much time together. I had made the decision that if the forces that be back out, I'm paying for this. I mean, it's going to happen no matter what, because I'm looking at them going, they're going to be multimillionaires in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
I'm not worried here. You know, when I saw the heart and soul and Nikki's attitude then of just go fuck yourselves. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And then when it started to happen, it's that attitude that they just rose up out of the sewers almost and went,
literally,
you know, just piss off and let us do it. And I was shaking when I was reading all of that, how like it was all their idea, all this idea, all that idea. You know, and I mean, I don't know if I brought this to you once before. I mean, I think I mentioned about how I got flown to Vancouver to get Loverboy.
No, you didn't. No.
Well, Loverboy, you know, they had the song for Top Gun.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
The band wasn't talking to each other. Boom, 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 boom. So they flew me up there, and I just, you know, Alan, you know, their manager. And I just said, well, what's the problem? He said, they just don't talk to each other. I said, can you let me have them? And he goes, what do you mean? So I just reamed them. in front of the head of Atlantic, head of everybody. I just bring back. But guess what? They all started arguing. Oh, yeah, but you do this. And, all of a sudden they're talking to each other. I go, well, now we're starting here. I go, so what's your problem with him? And what's your problem with him? And it just really came down to nothing,
Yeah,
and,
it's always nothing. It's always nothing.
So it went, we worked it all out. But I also remember with Atlantic being called by Arma Andon, who I'd become a personal friend with because he was very good friends with Billy Squire. And by this time, Billy, by 80, is someone saying is 80? Yeah, 81. Yeah, Billy and I met November 20th or something of 81 at Santa Monica Civic.
Oh, that big show. You met him at that show?
Mm-hmm.
That's a legendary show.
And so the record company asked me if I wanted to go, to meet them and stuff. And Pat Benatar was there, Rick Springfield was there. I mean, there's so many people there. And I went, yeah. So I go backstage and, and I've got photos that Niels Lozauer took of all of us and stuff. And it's just one of those things, he intrigued me.
Right.
Because I loved his songs.
Oh, so good. So good.
And he was very, very mellow.
Wow.
Really like stand back, mellow, doesn't say a lot, this sort of thing. And so when the thing with Andon, sort of later on, and Arma rang me up and he said, he goes, look, I've got this artist, you might have heard of him, Michael Bolton. I said, yeah, incredible voice, great artist. This is possibly a year before he really jumped out of the box. How many millions of records has he sold by now?
I know. I could look at gazillions.
Because timing is everything. And Arma says to me, we've got this art. We're not sure what we want to do with him. We really like to break into this rock and roll thing. Could you make him be like a David Lee Roth?
And who is this? Is this Billy Squire?
No, this is Michael Bolton.
Oh, Michael Bolton.
The head of the record company is asking me to make a Michael Bolton.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
I just stood there and I went, you don't get it, because they didn't know what to do with him. Because everything on MTV was rock and this and screaming and that, And I'm going, no, I don't think. Because I said, let me meet with him. So he came to LA and, we chatted and we talked and everything. We did photo sessions and, Michael Bolton, really nice guy, smart. He's not your typical singer of rock bands.
Right.
These are people that their concentration span is a little longer than that.
I think he has some rock roots too. There's some rock roots.
Yes, he does. And I think his whole background and of New York, upstate, or wherever, he was from. So we sat and talked, and I said, look, of course we can do something, and I spoke to the photographer that was going to do it. And I just sort of said, how comfortable do you feel if I try to dress you up like David Lee Roth? And he goes, whose friggin' idea was that? And I went, I'm not going to say, because what that does, they lose faith in the very record company that sold that, has signed them. If they don't have that behind them, what do they have? And I said, oh, it was just something that came up. I said, but what we'll do this, we'll do that. And I think I said, look, the biggest thing he's going to get is maybe a pair of leather pants. I said, the rest of it will just be so that you can't look at it and he's got a suit on and he's got a shirt on. I said, we'll do what we can. And fortunately, the girl for photographing, doing the photos was a really good friend, and she knew how I worked and what I did. So she pretty much let me go. And then she say, right, are you ready? Can I shoot now? I go, yep, you can shoot now. Because I literally would have him there like as if he's a mannequin. Right. Like I did with Olivia. Okay. You got your pants on. Now we're just going to throw things on and do this, do that. And she's just going to go shoot. And we'll pick some of the good stuff out, And, we stayed in touch and stayed good friends. And then 18 months later, boom. I can't remember the first single, but bang,
Another bomb goes off.
Yeah. And he starts now that era of vocalism. Earth, Wind and Fire come back. Philip Bailey comes back. James Ingram, Quincy Jones is in there. I am now working with all of these people. Wow. I probably started working with Quincy Because these are stories you can't really believe. Billy and I went on holidays. It's one of those things. He was in Munich doing the album with Mac, who did Queen.
Mhm.
He bought a Porsche there in Munich, where they are done, and they have a racetrack, so he could trace it. We took the Porsche, we drove it to Rome, and where people said, don't leave your car because they'll steal the wheels from underneath you. Yeah. Then we drove all the way around the south, all the way around the Mediterranean, and we went and we stayed at Hotel de Cap. And this was right near Cannes Film Festival. So I'm not thinking anything about a beautiful place. This is lovely. They only take cash, that hotel, no credit card.
Wow.
We had to stay 2 extra days while somebody flew over from London with cash.
Yeah, not a ton of ATMs back then either.
No. And we're going out for dinner, and we go into the dining room. And I hear this voice go, Fleur, what are you doing here? Well, my points have now gone up, something else. I am known in Hotel de Cap. It's Quincy Jones.
Whoa.
Because we've just been working together. He's come over, I guess, for a film or something that he's done the music to. And he comes up and talks to me. Well, Billy, of course, is impressed. And they all meet up and chat. But there are moments like that are so non-expected. And then I get there where I'm thinking, I don't know anybody here. And of course, I now happen to know one of the main people that everybody's talking
Love
about.
it. That's great.
So our service changes, our tables change, the bottle of champagne in the room becomes more expensive. It's just really funny when they think, you're forced to be reckoned with now. Now, who's this blonde tart? You
deserve it. You changed everything. You changed the whole game.
But this is what you realize. Nobody knew me. Right. They never really thought about. I can't tell you, like somebody the other day, there was a picture of Livia and I, and somebody picked up, boy, they really ballsed up your spelling of your name. I said, you have no idea the way my names have been. They had no idea who I was. They just thought I was the biggest groupie in town because I'm turning up with Rod to here and I'm turning up with Andy to there.
Oh, that's true. Wow.
Do you know what I mean? They had no idea what I did. And then one day I took a guy like Ron Gallo. He was always around taking all the photos. And then one day we stopped and talked. I said, is it of any interest to you as to what it is that I do, rather than you're thinking I'm the biggest slacky around, And he goes, well, yeah. So when I talked to him and said, I'm here because I design the clothes these people wear, and if they've got going to something, like Rod will say it was a hot wax film premiere, and he said, can you come with me? I was the girl du jour in between relationships. If any of them weren't dating, Fleur will go with me. Fleur, and so then it started to change, and then I became a person in my own right, as far as the photographers or the paparazzi were concerned, But really, up until I started doing the Instagram, nobody, and I'm talking last November, nobody knew who the hell I was. So, and I wasn't out there for me. I'm not like the stylists of today who get a higher credit, than the celebrity they're working for. I hate all that stuff. So anyway, now, jumping away from it, do you want anything of the early Aussie stuff, or what do you want?
I love it. Give me some early Aussie stuff.
All right. Well, you mean Aussie, Australian, or Aussie?
Aussie. I said Aussie, but I said Aussie. Give me some of the early Australia stuff. Let's end with that. Let's do some early Australia. Let's end with the beginning.
Yeah, because you've got the live stuff, how it came about, working together. And the thing is, we did not know each other in Australia. I was in high school. She was doing, when we were both 16 type thing, I'm in high school. She's starting to sing on the music shows that are on, with Pat Farrer and Pat Carroll then, so I knew who she was, but I'd never met her till 73 in Los Angeles. And that came about meeting her because John Farrer was there with her. And John Farrer was very good friends with Stevie Kipner. Now, Stevie Kipner wrote Physical, Genie in a Bottle, a lot of Barbra Streisand songs. So Stevie Kipner is a big, big songwriter. And he and John were mates from Australia. So that's how we all met up, this Australian contingent. She went back to London for whatever. Then she came back in 74 because Helen Reddy said to her, if you want to be a success in America, you've got to live here. Wow. So Olivia moved to LA. And that's when we hooked up again, because I was the only person she knew. We started working together. Then we do the first Vegas show with Charlie Rich, and on it goes from there. And Helen Reddy had a lot to do with helping her along. You know, she knew the business, she knew Vegas, she knew, you know, the ways and to go. So it was like the three of us became, you know, good friends in that way, because it's amazing how if you're an Aussie, you'll find another Aussie.
Okay.
Under a garbage can on the top of Mount Everest. You know, we just turn up, you know. So anyway, so that's that. So prior in Australia, I just was your typical school kid that was sports mad and surf mad and music mad and going to the local dance to watch the Easy Beats. You know, because I was a huge fan of them and so on and so on.
Wow, that's crazy. You saw them at the local dance?
Yeah, the local dance. You know, Friday on My Mind.
Oh my God.
And that's how it also started. Now, as we go through with this, you're probably familiar with Michael Kudinski. You know, who passed away. He ran Frontline and Mushroom Records, and Michael had the huge effect of Australian music, record signings and everything. A phenomenal man, and he passed away earlier this year. Yeah. And so there's a huge gap in the music industry here. But anyway, I'm just going to school, I leave school, supposed to go to university, and I meet up with someone who, I did too much explanation as to who these people are and their background, but I get changed out of that. She's a singer in Australia. She meets me somewhere and she says, oh, you don't want to do this. You go and be a model. And I'm going, oh, model. Oh, God. You know, I'm always getting yelled at. You're in the sun too much, you know, crap.
Right.
But also to her manager, this is January of 1968. And this is where my life changes.
Okay.
Her manager is having a party for The Who and the Small Faces because they're on tour in Australia in 1968. So I go along, I meet the guys and, you know, chatting away, and I meet Steve Marriott. And of course, you know, I'm such a fan. I'm going, oh, Steve Marriott, you know, what a voice and all of this. And we chatting away, and Stevie Marriott says to me, what are you doing tomorrow? And I go, nothing. But she goes, do you want to go water skiing with us? So I go water skiing with both bands the next day. My sister covers for me. I'm 18 years old, you know, and off we go, and we learn. I can ski. I've been water skiing at everything, you know, for years. But we do this whole thing, and it's just one of the most hysterical days and photos in your head. If Keith Moon driving a speedboat.
Oh my God.
With
insane
guitar player. I've just gone blank on his name.
Pete Townsend.
Pete Townsend. Townsend's on the skis at the back.
Oh my God, Fleur.
And Keith Moon is just
you're 18. Wow.
And doing this and doing that, you know, and he's basically trying to kill Pete, you know, like put him off, you know. So anyway, the day's over, we get back to the hotel. Stevie says, do you want to come to the show again tonight? I go, yeah. So I sit down in the lobby waiting for him. And then he brings me down, because I've got my swimsuit on underneath a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, you know. So he brings me down some of his clothes. And I go into the toilets in the foyer of the hotel and get changed. Off we go to the show again, you know. And so it's just one of those things. Like I said, I never asked for any of it.
It's just chance meetings and fate, right? A lot of fate there.
It's fate. It's the thing I say, luck, timing, and talent. You can have all
timing and talent. I love that.
If you can have all the talent in the world, but no one knows you exist, moot point. You know, so you make your talent. You make that when you get an opportunity, you don't take it lightly. You go, this is an opportunity. Olivia was my opportunity. And I went and did everything I could to what I couldn't do. I got the best of what there was. And the people there in LA, from the fabric store owners to Bob Mackie, they saw that I wasn't kidding. And they helped me, you know. They told me where to go for fabrics. They told me where to go here, what beaters to go to. I mean, I couldn't have, you know, survived in the sense, because I didn't have the knowledge. I knew how to make clothes, you know, from doing bands at the latter end of the 80s. So as a result of that, then I moved much more into doing around the music industry. making clothes for bands, one of which was a band called the Valentines, of which Bon Scott was in, and he was the drummer.
Gosh.
You know, and I don't know if anybody else out of that band had any sort of international success, but you know, it was an era of the John Farnhams, the Russell Morrises, the Easy Beats, Zoot, you know, that period of 68 to 70, which was a lot of Australian artists, but a lot of them really didn't break overseas. Rick leaving, you know, said, I'm leaving, I'm going overseas. I've been offered a record contract. There's a guy called Robbie Porter, who was a big producer in the early 70s, because I think Rick left Australia 71 and I left in 72. And so, but because I had the music background and because I was such a tomboy and got along well with these, it wasn't like a chick coming and hanging out. I had a very different sensibility of dealing with people. And, you know, so one thing led to another. And then with Rick, when he had Speak to the Sky, I banged into him in the supermarket up on Hollywood Boulevard, or is it Franklin?
I think Franklin and Mayfair up there on Franklin and Bronson, maybe?
Is that, no, not that far down. Oh. It's up near Fairfax or
okay, so yeah.
Coldwater Canyon, not Coldwater, Laurel Canyon running through. In there somewhere, Daryl and I were in the car park, and all of a sudden Springy comes out of the supermarket, and we go, holy shit, man. And, you know, oh my God. And so he's touring. So then he goes, oh, you got to do this and got to do that. And the strangest of people walked in the door once I had my studio. Like I said, Eric Carr. I mean, there's hordes of them that I'd sort of not lost track of them. I know that they're there. Yeah. You know, that all the people I worked with and who helped me. I mean, Betty Buckley, who had the leading Cats in Manhattan, rings me and says, I've got to come into LA. I've got to do these other things. Like if they were doing performance show, they'd call me and say, can you do this? Farrah Fawcett's calling. I need you. Oh my gosh. Can you do a commercial with me? Oh God, there's just hordes of them if I look at it. You know, they didn't go into the rock and roll industry. Yeah. But there were the people in that 75 to 80 that were huge on television shows.
Like even shows like Chips always had rockers. Like Leif Garrett was on Chips looking so mean in his leathers.
And then Leif I met through his manager, Stan Morass, and he brought me in. But the thing is with Leif and Andy and Sean, it was more like the big sister. You know, I would go to shows with them. I would often travel with them. Managements didn't have to. You know, I would go, I would make sure everything's fine. They knew I would deal with the promoter. They knew I would deal with whatever. And in these situations, these guys were not used to dealing with women. Yeah. This was an unheard area of a woman having power, per se. But because I'd spent my life around guys, I knew how to, you know, work with them and get what I needed, but not by wearing a low-cut dress and ass-high shorts.
Well, like because you said, the talent and the psychology, you had them merged.
Exactly. I mean, there's no integrity in that. And this is my biggest issue in life. You know, men want to respect you and they want you to have integrity. But when you go and do certain things that just blows their mind, but you're expecting them to, you know, respect you. It's one of those things, you know. And so, you know, then it comes into all of these others that are in there, which of course, you know, I'll write about. But before and Bon and I stayed in touch for years, you know, we'd bang into each other in clubs and it was always great. One thing I've done this, like say, for example, I just say, Pat Benatar's birthday party, Michael DeBar's there, Nigel from Blondie, Ronnie Dio and Wendy are there. You know, and then Ronnie and Dio's wife, they go to the Rainbow, you know, they've had enough of the party. But when I get to, don't say I've lost my piece, where is it? This is when the Rolling Stones do Los Angeles. Okay, the big tour. I am now here we go. Sunday, October the 11th, Stones concert at the Coliseum.
What year is this?
81. Okay. The day before is David Lee Roth's 26th birthday. So that he's having a big party. So then on the next day, I'm now working with the Jacksons because I'm making armor for Randy Jackson. I've only sort of got one picture of it, but it was phenomenal. And Randy Jackson, the young Randy, not Randy right. young Randy. And so he takes me to the Stones concert. And so I'm just going to turn this around for a second. Can you sort of?
I can sort of see, I can see the writing, and yeah, it looks
right. Can you see the writing that's down here, all the way down this column?
Lift it up a little bit. Yes. Yes.
Okay. We go to the concert. This is the tour where they had the big lips.
Yes.
And they stood out. Now that was on like a gauze scrim. Behind that were the seats where we sat, where the celebrities sat. So anyway, incredible band, great at sound, 1.5 hours wait for the Stones. Our seats are incredible. Tom Peters from Cheap Trick's there. Ali McGraw's there. Tatum O'Neill's there. Leif's there. Tina Turner. Peter Angela who works the lights for Van Halen. Tony from the Babies is there. Rod Stewart's there, all the band. And then down that column, I have written down what every person in the band had on.
Oh my God, just your passion. I love it.
I've got Mick has on yellow football pants, tights, red tank top, yellow cool parker, white capuchos down to the shoes. Keith, black.
Did you bring the book to the concert, or did you remember this and write it when you got home?
When I got home, I wrote it all out.
Capuchos were such a part of rock back then. I had them. Capuchos.
Well, the thing is, capuchos were probably a lot to do. Like when David, how he did jumps or something, and he damaged the ball of his foot, and you see the photos of him walking around with this thing. I think when David was doing his jumps, I'm not sure if it happened at home or not, but a lot of your stages are wooden. But in his home, if he did it in the garage, it was a concrete floor. So when he came down, the foot was not happy.
Oh, those capuchos have nothing between you and the ground.
And if you look at how Ozzy walks around, you know how Ozzy would do those ridiculous jumps?
Yeah, the Ozzy.
And then come down, no pain, no gain, that sort of thing. But he also had capuchos on. Now, when you're jumping like that, and Ozzy wasn't a small person.
And Randy Rhoads had capuchos. This is genius.
But he was a little guy, and he didn't jump around like Ozzy and damage his knees. You see, with Ozzy coming down, landing on those feet, the damage into his knees and his legs, I think in certain ways, in the way that he walks,
right,
it probably had a bit of effect. But so it's sort of exciting when I read these, but it's just it's like you go somewhere and everybody turns up. You walk into the Rainbow, and Pete Townsend could be there, and Jimmy Page could be there, and that era in there was just mind-boggling.
Rainbow.
This will never be the same again.
No,
but it's just what it is. So anyway, that's my life.
I love it, Fleur. Thank you. That was really interesting. That really, I love it. It's so many paintings, so much to get my head around, and just so much shapes up from there that still ripples today. I mean, as a final question, do you think costumes will ever tell the story in music that they used to tell from these costumes that we're talking about? You think we're ever going to tell a story again through costumes?
I think that we will. I think that the thing, like you always see it, the costumes, telling movies, they time it. They, a certain movie, it's shot in the 50s, or Marilyn Monroe is in it, and so it's that time frame and what she wears. And it was really interesting because I have had a couple of people come in on my DM, because people say, you've got to check this girl out. And they say, why is it that you've never done an exhibition? Why is it that you've never done something at the Met? Why is it that a documentary has never been done about you?
Right.
Because if you look at the clothes and the effect that they had on people, their lives, the fashion itself, I was the one that was copying. One day I remember walking past Sports Girl, and I thought Pat Benatar was standing in the window.
Oh yeah.
They had just mimicked her look, and there it was that you could now.
Even in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, they have the girl that looks like the Pat Benatar template. That was a look.
Yeah, so and I sort of thought, oh wow, hi Pat, so it did have an effect. It wasn't just to the band. And I remember thinking to myself, you go to an audience and who are fans of who, or even on the streets, because they're mimicking the dress. These
Yeah.
people who now have come together as a tribe, they turn up and it's like I live right across from the Palais Theatre. At the moment, there's not too many shows on, but if there are, I don't have to know by the sign. I know who's on there because of the way the bands are dressed. The artists, I mean, the fans, So in that way, it did have a huge, huge effect. It gave them something to follow, something to believe in. And also, too, it was incredibly competitive. And the fights that would happen in car parks, because you were dressed like Motley Crue, but they were fans of Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. I lived it. I learned how to fight because of that as a kid in Jersey.
Who were you following?
Oh, I was Motley Crue, and your kids lick it up. I sent you pictures of me with everything. I called it. I was a trinket rocker. Lots of uneven. I would get spandex and capezios, cut holes, and try to emulate what you had done, and tie little pieces of bandanas, like cutting very uneven, unsymmetrical cuts.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something in it, and they say, they like at the moment in an area, they've just done a great big exhibition of Mary Quant's clothes, and I mean, they've got all the clothes, because they're there, they're in shops. And I thought to myself, if you were to walk into a room, I was overwhelmed when I walked into Olivia's auction, and there were all these clothes I'd done that I hadn't seen in years. And they're all there on mannequins, like they're all going, "Hey, Fleur, hey," and waving at me. And I burst into tears, and Olivia got me and said, "Are you okay?" I go, "This is overwhelming. You must have been overwhelmed." She said, "Well, but this side of it wouldn't have the same effect on me as it has on you." And then to sit there, I was sitting there the Saturday afternoon that the patchwork jeans went up for auction. And I was sitting next to Dana, Olivia's personal, who's been working with Liv since 1977. And they start the bidding, 5, 10, 15, 20,000, 25. It gets to 50,000. I'm sitting there. I've got my hand on Dana's knee where she goes, "You're hurting me." And I'm going, I bloody can't believe it. Someone's paid 50 grand for those pants, And then I saw all the rest of the clothes, how much people were buying them for. And I went, whoa, that did start me to think about you're not a nobody.
No. You invented us.
I had no other reason to think any differently. It's like I mentioned in something. I have 3 platinum albums. Out of all the people I've worked with.
Yeah, wow.
Not one from Olivia, not from Rod, not from Van Halen. I have 3, and I made the joke. I had to sleep with 2 of them.
Oh my God.
And the other one is Pat Benatar.
Oh,
Billy gave me one, and the band gave me one for White Lion.
Wow.
That's it. Because people say to me, like I was talking to Ray Brown, and he said, "God, I've got them stashed in the garage." But whether or not he went and asked for them or made more of a thing of it, I just drifted through and did my job. Yeah. But people have said to me, "You must have hordes of platinum albums," And I did mention to David Coverdale, because he played me the album up in the Mondrian, and he said, "I want you to hear it." He said, "I want to get what you think." And I'm sitting there listening to it, and I said, 10 million easy, whatever. And because I just knew. The trilogy of videos, that we did. The songs were killer. The songs were just killer songs to take out on the road. Kids go nuts. Great voice, great musicians, no bogans out there pretending, the whole thing. And I was very good friends with management and everything. And I can remember going somewhere, and here was this massive thing with 10 platinum albums, how they roll over each other. You've probably seen them. They're all in there. And I'm going, I wonder if I'll ever get one. Nah.
I think when things are so large, people don't know. I'm reading a book I should get for you. You would love Paul Van Doren. Do you know who Paul Van Doren is?
I know the name, but
Paul Van Doren started Vans. He just died a few weeks ago. Yes, and they bring him into the Vans store. He hasn't been there in years, and he starts welling up because now there's Vans stores everywhere. He started Vans. He was a rubber worker that started Vans.
I used to live in the slip-ons.
Think of everybody sees Vans. Think of how many Vans change culture as well. Like they change culture. And nobody knows who Paul Van Doren is. He started, he did it. Like, he changed skate, everything. Of course, Tony Alva, everybody knows, read the book because he's like Nikki Sixx to you, just like, this is who made me. And it's amazing that I haven't had one friend say, oh, about this book where Paul Van Doren created Vans. He was born in 1933 and he just changed culture.
Yeah, and it is. And if you look at when they first started coming out, you know, because sneakers, you know, were sneakers, but then with Skechers, I knew a guy whose family was Skechers. And of course, what they did and the exercise shoe and everything else. But unless you come out seriously blowing your own horn, but I suppose it comes down to not having an agent or not having a manager and promoting me. At the time, I didn't need to be promoted. I was friggin' exhausted.
Well, that's like they say Marty Fredrickson, the guy that writes most of the pop songs now. I don't know if it's Marty. It's some guy. The one guy. These guys from Sweden that write. You don't know his face because he doesn't attach his face to all the songs he wrote. So
because he wants the band to be the song.
Yes, so it's not attached to him, and that's partly they say why he does so much work because he doesn't. Like, we love Diane Warren, but you know who Diane Warren is. He doesn't advertise himself so much, so the songs don't get attached to him. They get attached to.
Well, this is the bands want you to believe they wrote all the songs. It doesn't always happen. They may write some great songs, but then somebody else comes up with a song and so on and so on. So, I mean, I remember having a conversation, you know, just quickly with Rod about certain things. And as the music industry started to change and African American music became more, before you get to the 90s and becomes rap, you know, you've got more bands coming out. But if you read the album cover, it would have hair, makeup, nails, shoes. It's like, well, who the hell's the guys? And I really looked at that. And even with Rod, he said, look, you know, we sort of figured it out together. You do all the work. You come up with the ideas. You help me choose the fabrics. And he said, but something that's really important to me, because I'm always just being Rod Stewart, from the Gravedigger to whatever, I'm happy to give you the credit. He said, but I don't want it labeled. You know, it is me. I'm not bringing clothes and saying you have to wear this. Everything he's wearing, he's making a decision to do it. So you can't blame me for the one-shouldered spandex jumpsuits. He was happy to put them on, you know. And I said, Rod, I completely understand that. I said, I can't stand it when I see everybody has demanded credit on an album. When the album, if not for anything else, is all about the band, the music, the tours, to see this other, or, you know, the people who work on the tour, the crew, the gaffers, those things, you know, belong in the tour program. But to not necessarily, you know, socks from, shoes from.
It's so large. I could see where some things are so large that credit doesn't get given sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, I remember on a shoot doing a film, you know, up in Portland, and it was like, we didn't have a huge budget, and luckily I was in Nike Town, and it was a sports film, you know. So I went and I said to them, look, would you be cool if you've got some new stuff to give it a flog? Because this is about marathon running and kite sailing and all this sort of shit. And they were amazing in that what they would give me, you know. And Nike in 1992 didn't necessarily need promoting, but they were really just starting up with basketball and everything like that. And I went to a lot of people, and they were so great about giving me, you know. And at the end of the film, you'll often see credits for goods.
Oh,
because if you don't have,
they'll pay to have their goods at this point in the film.
Yeah, and if it's a film where you've got Marlee Matlin in it and Martin Sheen and names, and Marlee's already won her first Oscar, they're happy to do it. You know, it's the same with us. We've got lockdown again, and you know, and they've just extended it. So, but the football that's on has to be moved. They've just flown all the football teams out of Melbourne that live here. Now they're in Queensland. Now they're there, and all the things have to go all over the place. And what happens here in Melbourne, no one's going to the football games. The money losses are unbelievable. And if the game isn't here and it's not televised, the advertising is gone.
Yeah.
You know, because it's the advertising, whether it's television, is put to where you are, you know, if there's nothing to watch. So it's really interesting. This lockdown is a bit devastating. People, last year we had lockdown and the government, you know, I got paid every week from the government to be home, you know, 4 months. This year there's none of it. People are going under. The suicide rate is just awful. But but the thing is, with a lot of situations, and they've sort of talked to me about the documentary, and I said, I'd be thrilled. I said, I don't have a lot of the product.
Right.
I'm sure I could say to people, how you bought Olivia's dress here, and I think Rod's still probably got everything he's ever worn sitting up in the.
We have enough pictures, photos of everything. I saw a picture the other day of you with Mick Mars and him all stiff being fitted. Like that's the stuff right there.
Yeah, and that was a sheer fluke that someone had a camera there.
Yeah,
do you know
was
what I mean?
an amazing photo.
And I look at that and I look like I shouldn't be alive. I am really as tired as I look in those pictures.
Wow, yeah, just fitting him with that like that. Wow.
This is not a glamour shot.
Just seeing that be built, it seemed like he just would have jettisoned down from space in those outfits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So you actually had to make those outfits and design them, but they just seem like they were jettisoned from like another planet.
They literally, the concept came, from scratch. And when I read 1983, end of 82, of building them up and going, I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to watch Conan again. And I'm also going to watch, that is where it's because Mad Max wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
I mean, but the first one was. But, everywhere you go, if you are
Conan the Barbarian, I thought you meant Conan O'Brien. I'm like, wait, was that out? Yeah, Conan
the Barbarian, and what was the other one that would have been out then? But people walk around, but they don't see, because that's just for me. I've got a photographic memory, and I can see the picture and I can sketch it off the picture instead of having a photo. It's still there.
Oh, I love your sketches. There's such a style to the sketches alone. Oh my gosh.
Well, they change a bit because I end up changing them. If I'm doing Liza Minnelli, she's got to have movement. If I'm doing Olivia, they all change. There's like some people, they have a sketch format and you could pick it. You wouldn't necessarily pick mine because they change to the performer. And
that book you turned me on to, it's someone already took it from me, the Getting It On. That book, you got to get it on eBay or something. It just, The Clothing of Rock and Roll. It's such an amazing book, and it just shows what really went into it in your sketches. It's so good.
I did the interviews for that in New York in maybe 81, and the guy who was working with me on something else, and the woman who came to do the interviews, his office was right next door to INXS's office, where INXS's management's office was. Right. So I'd see the guys going in and hello, become friends. Can I have tickets for the Greek theater? Yeah, no problem. So, but the thing is, right across the board, like I'm just looking at here, I go to the Rainbow for dinner. Robin Le Mesurier, who used to be in Rod's band, comes in. Glenn Hughes comes in. Pat Thrall comes in, and he's raving about his new band. I said to someone, I didn't know normal people.
Right. No civilians. Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean?
But I do know what you mean. I do. I have a problem sometimes with civilians. Like, it's just like, it's a rough way to function. And it's probably the normal way.
It is, but if I left the house, I was going to Rod's, then I might have to go to Universal Studio because Sean Cassidy's doing this, or somebody else is doing this. And each day, and then Farrah Fawcett comes in and I've got to work with her for a commercial that we're doing, and so on and so on. In my wildest dreams, I think there are kids who, yourself, 10, I want to be in a band like Motley Crue.
Oh, reading about you, just like, who is it? You were the only one besides the band that made it into Circus. I don't know whether it was Circus or Hit, but I read about you became someone in my head and a vision of, so much. I mean, so much praise, so much she ruined this. She did like a rock star, edgy, like a rock star. You know what I mean? It came from every angle. You know what I mean?
But it's funny, just quickly, when you say that, there's a Circus magazine where Billy was, he's in it and he's recording. And they came down to the studio to do an interview with him, and Mac was there. And I was just hanging at the studio because I was doing 4 days in LA, red eye on Friday night to New York, red eye back Monday night, continuing on with my life. Those weekends in New York, you cannot ever discuss. There is so much brain damage. There is so much whatever. By the time I would get back to LA on the Tuesday, I'd be like, oh my God, now I have to keep going.
Well, there's so much mystery to everybody around Billy Squier. The whole thing, there's so much mystery around it. So you still hear nothing from him. You know, he might.
Yeah,
be,
I touched base with him a while ago. You know, we stayed friends. In the book, yes, I am definitely taking on every single person involved with Rock Me Tonight.
I think it was a great video. I think people wanted to blame. I mean, whether you didn't like it or that, I don't. I think that video took too much heat.
Well, it took heat, but the thing was, this was a guitar god.
Yeah.
You know, this wasn't John Bon Jovi.
Right.
A singer just jumping around, you know.
But I liked it as a kid. I love the colors. I like this crawl. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I get it. I know what he was.
Well, let me just say that the thing is it, and the arguments and the friends I lost because I reamed them for it, you know, and stood up for Billy. And if you read, there's a book out that says MTV's worst videos. Billy's number one. And it really hurts because when I look at him, the great guitar player, great personality, incredibly smart and intelligent, great songs, and his career ends because he's dancing around silk sheets without his guitar.
I have a friend that Luke Tierney, and he has a great show, and he played that video. It's going, this video took a bad rap, and I was so happy that he did it because I always thought it. I mean, I don't. People like to. That's like, to me, that's like blaming the '80s going away in Nirvana. It wasn't because of Nirvana. That might have been a cog, but people like to hate sometimes things, and you know.
Well, it's also two things change, but you know, and I go into a lot of detail in the book.
Yeah.
But I died when I walked on the set.
Oh, so you weren't into it. You weren't into it.
I knew exactly what was going on.
And Circus Magazine blamed it all on you. It was like his new girlfriend.
Of course they did.
Oh, they were like, his girlfriend.
Oh, his girlfriend, yeah. But they'll find, as I say, and Billy says it too. My girlfriend Fleur was the first person to say, and I said it in editing, this will kill his career. It cannot go out. Step up.
Yeah, because you don't like that vibe. You even Lick It Up. I could tell when we talk about, you're not as sold on Lick It Up as I am. You're not into that vibe at all. You know, which that.
Well, it's like people like to believe, like I said about Elektra, Motley Crue couldn't exist if it wasn't for a couple of names.
Right.
Motley Crue would have existed, Guy, if you hadn't come out of the fucking grave.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
Like I wrote in something. Milton Berle was his father. Berle, who managed
Marshall Berle.
All right.
And then they like to curse someone like Kim Fowley, who actually introduced me to Marshall Berle, who actually did give all these bands a lot of advice, but he's not allowed. Who was super creative in their creation. But he doesn't.
Milton.
Kim, who knew, as you said, Pete Angelis, who knew more. He knew these are. Kim used to tell me Pete Angelis very creative.
Known Barry Levine, because Barry Levine came in.
Oh, yeah. Kim knew him all. Goes, Pete Angelis started Lights for Van Halen, and now he's managing the Black Crowes. That's a guy that really did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but because he had that road thing, and that road animal is really important. And I possibly had it in the sense of surfing for years and being the only girl in the water with 20 guys.
Right.
You become resilient. They may give you a couple of waves and then they go, no, she'll go through you. You know, because I didn't care if I was liked or not liked, and it's never been an important part of me. I really don't give a damn if you don't like me personally, and I will stand up to you. Right. In the book, I will write about how many times I had to explain to a record company why I needed $500 for clothes for a video.
Right.
Well, why do you need that much? And in the end, and I've got the head of the record company, the head of publicity, and I'm going, you know, like on a three-way telephone call, I'm going, you know what? Screw yourselves. I'll pay for it. That video was weight.
Whoa.
And look where that video went into.
Oh my gosh, what a video.
And the record company, and what I hate is, why the hell did you frigging sign them if they're not worth $500 investment? And that album, what was double platinum or something?
Oh, yeah.
you know, and that is where you get these people who are so high and mighty, whether it's managed, or without us or without this, they'd be nobody, they'd be nobody. Meanwhile, I'm working at crotch level of
Literally.
who these people are, you know, whether they smell, whether they don't, whether they're nice, whether they're honorable.
Yeah.
You know, and it would just infuriate me. And I'm the same now. I would still go in, you know, with an axe in one hand and a shield in the other and say, get out of my friggin' way. You know,
I love how protective you are over there. That's amazing.
You know, and they're the things that in the book I will really write about, and I will make, like, it's interesting. Jason Flom now, is he the head of Atlantic?
I know that he was. He Skid Row, everything. I don't know if he's still there.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other story, and I won't go into that now because he was there in White Lion's time. And they come over holier than thou, that their shit doesn't stink, that they're bigger than God. And these bands who are so young and so easily swayed start to believe. Right. And someone like Michael Tramp, where he couldn't do no wrong. He was huge. The band was huge. He gets to 30, 31, and now all of a sudden, no one's returning a phone call. What? You know, and I'm watching it happen, and I'm trying to stay out of it, yes. You know, in that sense. And I'm trying to save him, you know, and, you know, Ed Trunk, all these people, they know, you know, from L'Amour's all the way down, you know. And, you know, and Michael's going, shut up, shut up, shut up. Billy Squire said it a lot, shut up, shut up.
Right.
Okay, shut up. You know, because even if the girlfriend's the top makeup artist in the world, but she's doing the makeup, she's still the friggin' girlfriend.
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean? So there's that side of it. And now I go, now is my time to put you fuckers right up in front of the jury.
There you go.
Let the people decide, because Billy Squire had no idea. I did. Had no idea. And I'm trying to not lose my lover.
Right.
I'm trying, you know.
That sounds like a Billy Squire song title, by the way.
My kind of lover.
Trying not to lose my lover. That's a good alliteration right there.
And I can remember going to Tom Moeller and Stuart Young. Stuart Young managed AC/DC for a long time, and very good friends with Lieber and Krebs, you know, and all those people. And when I say these names, you realize I wasn't just some chick who designed clothes.
Right.
These people.
I mean, come on! Shout out to this is a major cog in this. Yeah,
these are people that I know, that I talk to, that I'm a part of. You know, Peter Lubin, who ended up being one of the biggest merchandising, who was real clever, knew how huge Prince would be, went to him pre-tour, and said, "I'll give you X million now before you start." Do you want to know how many million he made off merchandising from Prince?
Gosh, I can't imagine.
Do you know what I mean? But there's people like that, but he didn't lay claim without me. But, you know, I went to Tom Moeller and I said, the thing that is a priority here, that the band is shot from the beginning doing this song. All the way through, the band is there doing it from top to bottom. So when we get to editing, if we've got a problem, no one did. So there's, other than what you see of the band in the little bits, had the band been shot from the beginning, all the parts where Billy wasn't in his best interest could have been edited out, and he's with the band. Right. And the color tone is because my brief was, it was going to be gritty, dirty, and dark, so don't put them in black.
Oh. Wow. Behind the curtain.
Didn't happen. Yeah. And when I came up, I saw the satin sheets on there. I said, what the fuck has that got to do with anything? And then, it's very, I said, no, it's not very rock and roll. It's what you think. I don't know one rock artist that has satin sheets on his bed. If I go into their bedrooms, God forbid, I said, I'm lucky if there's a friggin' mattress cover. You know, they got...
Gonna put a boots on in the video.
Yeah, you know, so they're the things that when I get to the book that it goes in. And I mean, of course, there'll be a whole chapter to Billy and about that. And people will be saying, okay, so let's see where this came from. you know. And I mean, there's a lot more involved in the sense that we're in Europe on holiday and we're getting telegrams about how Record's doing, how What's doing, you know. Now, Billy, when he left, had approximately 20,000 seater gigs with Def Leppard opening.
Okay.
When he came back, it was down to 10,000.
Wow, like in half.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of the abandoners.
I'm nearly 72 years of age. If you think I'm going to shut my mouth and worry about what might happen to me.
I love it. I love it.
But do you know what I mean?
I do.
I came out kicking. I came out fighting. I had parents, a dad coming back from the Second World War, you know, who taught me to be strong, who, you know, I used to help him cut the, you know, we had chooks to take the heads off the chooks and watch them run around without their head, and they do run around without their heads.
Oh my God.
You know, and then a mom who, when dad was at the war, you know, by the time I was an older person, she was a senior mistress in a school, and she'd walk up and crack the kids over the back of the head. I mean, I got some beltings. I got the strap. I can remember going to school with marks on my legs, you know, because I just stand there and go, I don't care. I don't care. Mum would go, I don't know what they're going to do with us, you know. But I grew up with no fear. But at the same time, even though my mom was trying, like when another school would ring up and say, look, we may have to suspend Fleur, you know, because she took a dead rat into class and put it in a desk, you know, and then, but mom is then still trying to say, bad girl at the dinner table. You can't do things like that. She can't, she's got a smirk on her face. Pride. Do you know what I mean?
No, I do. I love it. I love it.
And so I think that of the three girls, of which I'm the youngest, I think she worried less about me, you know, because of the way I was. When I said I want to get a surfboard and I want to go surfing, no problem. You save up, we'll help you. Yeah. You know, never stopped me doing, you know, going out playing football, doing this stuff, because she knew I had a dividing line as to who guys were and what they were in my life. You know, they were mates. I enjoyed having them as mates. And it's like, once you sleep with people, you're never a mate again. You're either involved or you're gone. They just ignore you. You don't exist, you know.
Yeah.
And that is when I see the revenge.
Yeah. Well,
do you know what
I do. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll talk during the week. Will you please tell Dylan I say goodbye and thank you?
Yes, I will. Thanks, darling.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
See you. Love you too. Bye.